Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll for us?
Mayor Gross,
Here.
Vice Mayor Huntington,
Here.
Commissioner Amsler,
Here.
Commissioner Holland, Commissioner Kennedy.
Here.
The Mayor, you have a quorum.
Wonderful. Let's do Pledge of Allegiance, please. Okay, so let's go ahead and open up to public comment. We will start with folks here in the log cabin. And just a reminder, public comment is 3 minutes. Please provide us with your name and address before you begin. And we'll try to limit our public comment to this agenda because we'll have a separate public comment for the next agenda. So open it up here in the log cabin first, please. Oh, no.
The microphone's not working, guys. They're gonna sit up here for public comment.
No, unfortunately. Batteries die quicker in that microphone than any other device I've ever seen. In my
Trevor
life.
Lafargue, hello, Trevor Lafargue, 910 Northeast 119th Street. I prepared something. I was going to email it, so I'm just going to read off of it. So forgive me. 10 years ago, I brought my then 8-year-old daughter to a birthday party in Edbrook Park. My wife and I fell in love with the village because of that visit, and eventually we bought our home here. In the 10 years since, I honestly don't think much has changed in the park, except for maybe a tree fell down or something. I'm going to give my opinion on this initiative, but my opinion is one of many, and I may not have all the details. But when it comes to tough decisions and finding money in the village like ours, one that has very little resource, it's the commission's job to navigate the court of public opinion. I doubt we can put every measure on a ballot and vote. What I am sure we can all agree does matter, aside from opinions, is data and the healthy analysis of it. Here are a few personal bits of fact. The toddler lot we use at least 3 to 4 times a week. It's not as modern as many others in the county, but it's very convenient for us. We've been to other toddler lots like the one in Doral, and it's super nice. North Miami's building one right next to their library. It's great. Most of the people we meet in the BP toddler lot are locals, caregivers for locals, and the children we meet are all neighbors. The parking, cars should never be hindering the only sidewalks we have in the village dedicated to safely exercising. Given the traffic issues we've had and the hazard that presents to pedestrians, this is inexcusable. Yet cars are allowed to park covering the sidewalks every time soccer practice is in session. The open field we use for flying kites and running sprints. After review, I'm sure other data tells a different story than mine. And I'm sure Issa he's out there doing rounds, collecting info. I'm sure it exists. In closing, I strongly support any initiative to access free money to improve one of the few assets we have here in the park. To me, improving our community is worth every penny. Maybe there is mismanagement of a specific budget line item or administrative issues. That's for you, the commission and the administration, to deal with quickly to get this measure moving forward as a group. Writing a request for grant money we may or may not get to improve our village is a no-brainer. We should be doing that every year for this purpose and many other village issues. I respectfully thank you for your time. Thanks.
David Raymond, 11520 Northeast 9th Avenue. So a few things, and I know, thank you all. I've spoken to everybody up here, all the elected officials up here, with the exception of John, who I didn't know if you have Art's old phone number, but I texted that yesterday. Anyway, thank you all for speaking with me yesterday, and I'm going to sort of repeat some of that here. But I think, first of all, this meeting wasn't even noticed until yesterday. It wasn't on the calendar. You check the calendar, people know it wasn't there. I heard back from commissioners who were getting to the office. I don't know if there's a requirement 48, well, my board at the county, we had to notice things 48 hours in advance. I don't know if there's a rule here, but you don't have a representative sample of the community, I don't think, without doing that. I'm just pointing that out, and it's not the first time. So tonight, you're going to make one of the most important decisions, at least about process of anything that we all elect you to represent us for, which is to hire somebody to lead this place. Please don't cheap out. Please hire somebody at a competitive rate, put it out there at a competitive rate, because people will not come at the rate we have. Good people will not come, and we keep going on the same roller coaster. And we're wasting not only our time, but so much money in paying people who can't get the job done. If you hired somebody at a decent salary, they would be doing things that Commissioner Kennedy has, I think, on your next agenda, like bringing in grants and looking for alternative funding and growing the village stronger. We seem to have this poor mentality around here. You walk out on the streets and you feel like right by our mayor's house, it looks like Beirut on the street. It's like you can't even walk down that street. It's half blown up, half patched. And then we put money, $90,000 in a line item for a pickleball court that's been sitting there for the last several years. If you're not doing the pickleball court yet, fix the road with it. I mean, it doesn't make sense. You're collecting those dollars from taxpayers, they're sitting there. So I just want to point all of that out. Backing into that pickleball and to your item about the grant, and I spoke with each of you about that. The contentious item, I think, in that whole grant is the pickleball court, because that hasn't been decided yet. We need parking. We have a parking plan. We haven't heard anything on the parking plan. Why don't you either put the money in that you're going to put in for pickleball and can use that for parking, which we need, and submit the grant for playground equipment and parking. Or if you don't want to put the capital funds in, just do the playground equipment. Who's here is going to complain that we put in new playground equipment, right? The divisive part, if you excise that from the equation, I think things will be better off. Thank you.
Barbara Kuehl, 777 Northeast 111th Street. About the resolution that's on the agenda. It's being done really to apply for the FERDAP grant. We had a FERDAP grant years ago that I think paid for the covering of the tot lot and new playground equipment. I'm all for going after grants. The way this is done, that this last, apparently it's going to be, they're trying to get it in before the October 14th. It's just not being done the right way. If you read the grant, one of the most important aspects is community involvement, workshops, hearing what the villagers want. They even ask you to submit the minutes to the meeting so they know what direction the villagers want. Surveys. They want a community survey, not something done online that was open to all of Dade County. We shouldn't rush to meet a deadline and add something like pickleball that, right, I don't want it. There are a lot of people that didn't want it. Some people do want it. Maybe people with young children would be more in favor of spending it on better playground equipment. The thing is, we can start this process next year. We don't lose anything except doing it the right way and not losing money. The hiring the village manager, I agree with everything David had to say. This is a new chance. We wasted a year, but now we have a new chance to hire somebody that can move us forward. Somebody that can address some of the many problems we have, starting with the roads, our website, drains, just identifying and cleaning them, trees that need to be removed, parking around the rec center, the handicap parking at the log cabin, erecting a new public works garage, and hiring a public works manager. We need a competitive salary for somebody to handle these projects. In 2014, the salary for a village manager was $87,000. It's 10 years later, and I think we're thinking about 100,000. I would tell you the amount that you decided in the budget, but the budget isn't online. The budget you approved that really should have been made available to all our residents. We should have been told that the millage was dropped. Nothing is communicated to villagers. It's not realistic to have a salary that isn't keeping current with the times. And when you offer us $100,000, you're going to get what we had last year. So please, I just looked at the budget from last year, and the code department, the code supervisor, or the department chair, it's Doreen. It's budgeted at $158,000. I mean, we need a manager who is going to look at our departments and put the employees in the right order and not have salaries like that or expenditures. The money we save on something like that, with now we have 5 employees, could offset the cost of the manager. And that's where I'd like to spend the money. Thank you.
Gary Kuehl, 777 Northeast 111th Street. As far as the FERDAP grant, I think there's 3 basic reasons that we're not prepared to move ahead. Obviously, we don't have the management in terms of a village manager or a public work director. Secondly, this is not have, there's no community consensus. There's very minimal community awareness. And to move ahead with something without the support and knowledge of the community.
Yeah, I'm listening to this.
Hello? Well,
Well,
thank
it
you
was,
Okay,
All right, Gary, go ahead.
all right. The third reason is that this has been based on the assumption that people want a pickleball court, which, yes, some people do, but is that something that's supported by the entire community? Is that something or even aware of? Do the people around the rec center want the noise and the additional traffic? So I think there are 3 basic problems. As Barbara said, absolutely would like to pursue grants in the future. I just don't think we're ready at this time. As far as the village manager, I was always one of those people that felt, you look for the ambitious up and comer and they'll move into the job. It's really not that difficult, but I no longer believe that's true. I don't think the times are reflective of somebody being able to take that opportunity. I think David, in fact, pointed out that El Portel, which has 2/3 the population of Biscayne Park, pays $145,000 for their village manager. I certainly think that we could afford that, if not a bit more. I see the budget, I see what's been done under this administration, and we have wasted money. I look at code department and it just drives me insane what they did and what they paid people. Seriously, 25 to 30% more than the going rate for those positions for qualified people, and those people weren't qualified that were hired. And five staff for what? Does anybody see an improvement in code in the village? I don't. I see the same things. I actually have pictures of violations, prominent violations that have been there for over a year. I find it extraordinarily frustrating what's been done there. And I think with good management, there's absolutely room to pay a village manager substantially more than we're currently doing. Thank you.
You finally have a microphone at my height. Janie Anderson, 11905 Northeast 11th Place. I'm all in on the importance of a process when you're doing something, particularly when it involves other people's monies. But I think what I'm watching again is that we're getting so hung up on the process, we're losing sight of the goal. And the goal is something that has been needed, long overdue, for a considerable length of time, and that is renovations to our rec center. And we're not just talking prettier equipment, nicer equipment, we're talking safer equipment which should be a priority for everybody. We're talking maybe a few more amenities in there to make that area more welcoming, more attractive. We need to figure out what it's going to take to start getting people to buy homes here who are planning to actually live in them, not develop them for our next Airbnb. So yeah, it would have been great if we started this earlier and if we had a manager in place. Well, we didn't and we don't. So we can throw our hands in the air and say, gotta wait till next year. You know what's gonna happen next year? Because it sure happened every year that I've lived here, and that's 1978. We're gonna find more excuses. Or we can work with what we have, which is a very dedicated, very competent recreation manager. I mean, to my knowledge, I wish he was here to correct me if I'm wrong, he has been with this village since before we had a manager form of government. And he learned under one of the best, Ana Garcia, who was our second village manager with a super strong recreation background. She trusted him. And I think you guys should too, to pull this project off to success. Because we spend so much time telling ourselves why we can't do something and we shouldn't do something. You know, that same time and energy could really get a lot accomplished. Oh, and as far as El Portone, what they pay their manager, it's not a starting salary, number one. And number two, they do have commercial and some development. So it's a little bit different.
Hi, everyone. Ezra Deutsch, 885 Northeast 113th Street. My public comment today is very simple: to approve today's special resolution for FERDAP grant. As a former grant approval committee volunteer at the federal level, I know it's usually very straightforward to get grants. Follow the directions, fill in what they ask for. A lot of the time, the grant's approved. I'm not a fan of the new pickleball courts in our park, but I know how to compromise as well. Giving our manager the tools to get free money and grants like these is exactly the kind of progress I'd like to see in Biscayne Park. Thanks.
Good evening. I'm Anna Daly, and I'm at 655 Northeast 115th Street. And I really love our village. I appreciate that we have a beautiful park and playground right down the street from my house. And I do kind of like the fact that it's a little old school. But this summer, there was an incident that happened where I witnessed and first responded to a boy that was maybe 4 or 5 years old that fell from the top structure of the playground and did a belly flop onto the mulch. And it gained a whole new appreciation to me about mulch's purpose, besides making a big mess. Had he put out his arm or leg, it surely would have been broken. And what was most terrifying for me and his grandmother is if he had fallen head first and what could have happened. And that was the final push that made me join the Parks and Parkways Board with an ultimate motive of trying to get some motion to make this playground updated and safer for our children. Last week I attended the special commission meeting, and it was really just to learn more. I didn't feel comfortable speaking because I'm new at speaking at meetings and new at being involved. And I learned a lot about residents' concerns and commissioners' concerns and questions. And I really appreciate your initiative, Commissioner Huntington, in making this happen. I understand we would want more time in community involvement. There are parents that want to be here and want to be involved. I spoke with many parents and they could not be here. This is dinner time. I was late because I was with my children. It is very much wanted by the parents in this community, and we have very many children. And if we're worried about, following a certain process, I urge us to make this happen because, as someone just said, there's always going to be an excuse. If the grant feels ready and you feel confident with it, then please move forward and let's just see what happens. And our Parks and Parkways Board is now, a functioning board. And let's use the 3 years to make the changes. And if pickleball is the only holdup, just take it out and let's make this happen because we need a safe playground for our children. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Julieta Dominguez from 11704 Northeast 11th Avenue. And it's my first time here, so I thank you. So I'm not very familiar in how to do it, but I'm going to support what she just said. I'm a mom. I don't have family here, so it's very hard for me to actually be here at this time, as it is also for a lot of parents of young kids that will need the playground. We do need improvements in the playground. It's something, I also witnessed an accident. Actually, it was for my mom, and she fell and almost broke her wrist. So it's something like really important, is safety of our kids here. And I'm speaking on behalf of a lot of moms that we are part of a group. And most of us, it's very hard for us to be here at this time. It's dinner time, as she said, it's bath time, it's homework time. So I'm here on behalf of a lot of us. We really need this. So thank you so much for trying to make this work. And I hope that you all listen, that it's something that we really need as parents. So thank you.
Danielle Huntington, 744 Northeast 119th Street. According to census data, 38.6% of our population is 18 years old or younger, 20% of that being under the age of 5. The data shows that children are the largest growing demographic in this village, but our priorities don't reflect this. I try to sit in almost every public meeting so I can educate myself with the legislation and policies being discussed. But I want to be clear, public meeting times are not conducive to doing homework, bedtime routines, or after-school activities, especially with the current childcare crisis and rising cost of living. I understand this and cannot blame families with kids at any age that can't make the same commitment. Commissioners, you were elected to represent the whole of the population. You are vessels for your constituents' voices, regardless if they are physically present in the log cabin. The added stress of not being represented should not be another thing families should shoulder. I heard your concerns from the last hearing, but if your issue was timing or public outreach, where's the standard operating procedure dictating the processes for grant applications and how many residents need to be polled or how to poll per village policy? To my knowledge, we don't have any, and even if we did, is it even accessible on our outdated website? The other issue I heard was a survey. From the meeting, I gathered our Parks Director and grant writer were collaborating, working within their scope and expertise to execute this grant within the designated timeline. Personally, I Googled and read the grant, so it was appalling and demoralizing to see a Biscayne Park asset, such as our Director Thornell, not only be scrutinized, but he was admonished. The commission and residents did not come prepared to even make an educated statement, rather misinformed judgments. As it looks, we don't have the ability to hire or retain competent staff, but the ones that manage to stay around should be supported and heard. It's not pleasant to hear, but administrations over the years haven't standardized protocols, and we keep tripping over our own feet with something so simple as a grant application. Halting progress because of this is just negligent. Residents have waited patiently at the cost of failing infrastructure, high employee turnover, and mismanaged budgets year after year. Brad says all the time, we don't want to give a blueprint to the residents to sue us, but I can guarantee you now the state of our playgrounds is publicly known. It won't be too long before we're paying for another lawsuit. It would be at the fault of the commission for not allocating funds to completely replace the playgrounds and then denying a grant to acquire the necessary products in the most fiscally responsible manner. And lastly, Biscayne Park is the 14th oldest incorporated city of 34 cities in Miami-Dade County. But we are years behind cities like Doral or Cutler Bay, both of which were incorporated within a year of our playground's installation. I was a junior in high school when the playgrounds were put in. I understand our village's culture. However, the municipal government processes are standardized everywhere but here. So this conversation shouldn't just be focused on playgrounds. It should be on an introspective look at how we are poorly run and managed. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Jose Castro, 3098 Northwest 6th Street, Miami, Florida, 33125. Members of the commission, I requested some public records back on May 17. I just got them today on my way here. Miraculously, the manager's application is not here. A lot of the documents that I requested are not here. So I beg of you guys to do a due diligence and do a proper search for the next city manager. That way you're not gonna have this problem that the city manager has weaponized the police department and going after residents and employees of the village. Everything that the city manager wrote about me, about my son, is totally not true. But, you know, I requested public records, and 5 months later, have not received them. So just received some of them today. I just beg you guys to please do a good search and do due diligence. Thank you.
There's no more comment here in the public, excuse me, no more. Gage.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Gage Hartung, 1029 Northeast 114th Street. Sorry I'm late. Traffic is really bad. And just gathering my thoughts on this. Again, it's the process that I have an issue with, is that this is something that's not been properly noticed. It probably has not been properly put through. I just was learning, I'm not one to use social media, so or not social media, but Nextdoor. But so I dived into it this past weekend to look, and I just realized that, you know, we were using the pickleball as a bait to try and get the money, and not, you know, that there's already money already set aside in the budget, the CIT, for improvements to the Tot Park. There's already money set into the CIT for the rec center. So this notion that we're not doing anything is not really true. There is money already put in there. It's just we're trying to attract more money. And then we're kind of getting locked into having to do a pickleball court, which has not really been vetted through the rest of the community. Anyway, it's just, I think that if maybe the pickleball was taken out and it was replaced with, like somebody mentioned, I think David earlier, about doing parking, you know, maybe that this would be something that's less controversial, because who doesn't want improvements for kids to have a play tot, or who doesn't want to have parking in the village around the park? It's just the process of doing this. We have a way of doing it, and it would be nice if we actually had some community input as far as wanting these capital improvements to the park, especially from the people that live around the park and throughout the park. So anyway, thank you.
That's good. Hello. Okay. My name is Sarah Montero. I'm from 750 117th Street. Who would have thought pickleball would have been so dramatic? But I don't think that many people are really fighting for the pickleball court. And I think some people like to stand in the way of progress. And as a parent here, who not only do I live here, but I teach in this community, I have children here, I have friends whose children live here, I was drawn to this oasis that we had. And I'm heartbroken to see it becoming a mirage as I watch meeting after meeting with people standing in the way of progress. There is absolutely no reason why we can't be the stronger voice and make sure that we get what we deserve. We have kids sitting out there right now. My kids are sitting at home. I don't like them going on our playground. I don't like them walking around our park. I get very anxious when we're there, and they're not little kids, but they're not big enough to be going up on these ridiculous playgrounds that we have set up. And if pickleball is the problem, I think you need to reevaluate what is important to you, because we are all saying the same thing, just some people like to block. And you need to reevaluate what we are trying to do here, what kind of community we want. And if you don't have a family now here, maybe you did at some point, reflect on that time as a parent, reflect on that time as a neighbor with kids around you, and what do you want to see? And I'm not just talking about the little kids. We have teenagers who deserve a place to go play basketball and on a clean court They deserve to play pickleball if they choose to. They deserve to be out there having a community experience. And if we keep saying we have to wait for the process, we will be nowhere. And I promise you, if we keep going in that direction, this neighborhood will be going nowhere, because we are all not going to just sit around and twiddle our thumbs waiting for an opportunity to revamp our parks. I'm going to pick my family up and I'm going to go to a city that's actually going to deliver, because right now that's not happening. And we cannot, I will be here all the time if that means that we need to start changing things, because this is the first time I was able to get my husband home in time to come do this. He wishes he was here, but my kids are sitting at home. For their safety, for their sake, and for my love of this little oasis we have here, we will keep showing up to make sure that our voices are heard. And if all those moms on our chat, we're going to keep on showing up, sending one of us at a time until we are heard as well, because we deserve to be here. Just because we didn't have all day to do nothing, we deserve to be having a voice and making sure that we are understood. So if pickleball is your problem, reevaluate what is important to you. Because if you're standing in the way because you're scared of pickleball, then you have to really think about what this world needs. Because it's not about a court, and God forbid it includes other people in other neighborhoods coming to enjoy our parks. It is a public park. They're allowed to do that, just like I go to Morningside, just like I go to the Shores. I would like our neighborhood to be that place for us. And sure, let's bring other people in too, because that's what community is for. Yeah, sorry. I got a little heated because this is why I don't do this.
Excuse me, sorry. If we don't have any other comment here in the log cabin, we'll go ahead and turn it over to Zoom.
Mr.
And please just
Mr.
put your hand up
Anderson?
and you'll be unmuted. Sorry, Madam Clerk, go ahead.
Yes. Mr. Anderson? Bob Anderson?
Bob Anderson, 11905, 119th Street. I do agree with some of the people have been saying about the manager's pay that needs to be increased. But we also need to have a commission to actually start managing the manager. That was sorely lacking for a while. On the playground equipment, it is way past the time to replace it. I urge each commissioner to go and take a look at each piece, each equipment that is there, and see the amount of decay that has been going on for all these years. There are actually, I've been hearing a lot, and I'm sure you have too, complaints for years about the condition. Also, I'm sure you've heard that before we add new items, we need to take the time and fix what we have. This is the time to start doing that. For all the years, we've never have done that. We've just let things decay and keep adding to it. Let's go ahead and turn around at our rec center and go ahead and fix what's there, replace what we need to replace, and do it right. Thank you.
Nicole Martinez?
Hello, thank you so much. My name is Nicole Martinez. I am at 1001 Northeast 118th Street. I'm phoning in on 10% battery from my son's soccer practice. I have 2 toddlers. My husband is traveling for the 18th day out of 30 this month, and I still managed to show up because I feel this issue is so important. I have been a director of a nonprofit organization for the majority of my career over the last 10 years. I have written many grants at the federal, state, and county level. I do not understand why we would be standing in the way of simply filing this grant. I mean, it's literally just writing a grant, and we are not allowing that to move forward for a grant that we desperately need. Because why? I don't understand. It is my understanding that at this level, we don't need to commit to making pickleball courts. All we need to commit to is writing this grant and getting this money. And then we as a village can determine how it's going to be utilized. I understand that we have, thank you to Commissioner Huntington, who I ran into in the park the other day. I understand we have a grant writer on staff who gets $6,000 per project, which is maybe 50% more than the market rate for a grant writer. So I don't understand why this person is not being put to the utmost absolute work, filing grants all day, every day, and doing it at the last possible minute if that's what's needed and if that's what's called for from this city. I don't get to come to a lot of these public meetings. I'm here today. As many of moms have voiced, I will be here for as many as I can attend until I can see this issue through. And I really just wanted to come on and voice my support for just writing this FRDP grant. Thank you.
Natalia?
Hi, this is Natalia Cebollero, and I live on 12015 Griffin Boulevard. Sorry if you hear my toddler. She's right here next to me. I'm also another mom here in support of the grant. I understand that we do have 3 years to decide what we want to do with this money, and I think there are enough people in the village that are pro this grant and that are willing to put in the time to help come up with a plan of what can be done with this money. I do have my daughter's 18 months old, and when she was born, we would take her to the park maybe when she was 6 months old, and the first thing she would do would be eat the bark. The bark to me is a huge issue at the playground. And I've seen other kids do the same thing. It is a choking hazard. So just even, making simple improvements. Another thing I wanted to point out was I take her often to the Todd Lot in Miami Shores, and I'm constantly running into Biscayne Park families. And one of the things is they tell me, well, this one's better than ours, but it shouldn't have to be like that. So I'm really in support of the grant, and I hope that we can move forward, and then later I'll come up with a plan and decide what we want to use this money. But for sure, we would want to improve the playgrounds for our kids and put some money towards the rec center. So thank you. Oh, yeah.
We have one more.
April Gilder?
Hi, yes, I'm Ariel Gilder. I live at 620 Northeast 116th Street. And I just wanted to speak up on behalf and echo what Nicole, Natalia, and a lot of the other moms just said on supporting the grant. I am new to the community. We just moved in a couple months ago, and I'm also an expecting mom. And something that definitely drew me to the community was, having access to parks and whatnot. But obviously after now going down the road of being an expecting mom and understanding that the park really does need a ton of updates, I don't see why we would not move forward with at least, applying for the grant and trying to better our community. We of course want to be attracting, a young new generation as our community grows and expands. And I don't see, there's only positives to this to create an appealing community. And I think it's something that we should all prioritize and not delay any further. Just hearing that it's been something that has been consistently delayed time over time within this community, I think it's time now that we can make a change and apply for this grant. And yeah, I hope it does follow through.
Okay, looks like that was our last one on Zoom. So thanks everyone on Zoom, and thanks everyone here for your comments. So let's go ahead and keep going. Let's move right into our reply. Do we have any?
Yeah, Joe, I would like to reply.
Sure, go ahead.
First off, I want to say thank you to all the residents to come out. I think this is probably one of the most spoken about topics I've seen in a long time. I mean, 15 residents talking here, plus I have another 20 signatures on a petition that I personally went around. That's a lot of residents coming out to speak favor of playgrounds. I didn't see one resident tonight say they don't support playgrounds. I think that's the overwhelming theme here that we should prioritize. I did take up Bob Anderson's invitation to go and look at our playgrounds this week. How I would describe it is how a lot of moms described it tonight: unsafe, rusty bolts, high levels where children can fall, inadequate flooring, trip hazards, flaking paint. This not the level of which our community should be providing for our children. 41% of our population is under 18, almost 20% of our population under 5. And that's just the percentage of children, not alone their parents, who are directly affected as well by these playgrounds. To me, it's something we should support. We should be supporting them. The one thing I agree with a lot of, we talked about our manager, Barbara. The one thing I will disagree with you is that one thing we lose by waiting until next year is time. A very precious commodity is time. Every child in this village will get a year older. Every day we go by, our safety risks get more. It's time for us to replace our playgrounds and provide safe spaces for our families. Thank you.
Okay, any other commissioner reply?
Not to the residents. Thanks everyone for coming out and heard you loud and clear. It's 5:43. We have our regular commission meeting that starts in 17 minutes, and that can't start late. We have a huge agenda we have to get to, and the most important topic on the agenda is we have to talk about hiring a manager. We have no manager in this village, folks. So while this is a conversation we need to have, that one has to happen like now. So I think we need to switch gears and talk about the manager real quick and understand that we may not get to everything tonight, but we've got to get the manager situation taken care of. I'm not suggesting that I don't want to talk about your item, Ron. I'm just saying that's the biggest priority we have here tonight. We have no manager to run this village.
Really quick, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. I'm in favor of going forward with the resolution. If I'm prepared.
Hello?
Unless, are there any other comments? Do you guys want to respond as well? I'm prepared to make a motion to approve.
No, I think my response, any reply that I would have would be baked into our discussion because the public comment was about that. So that's what I would wait for. So Commissioner?
No, I think I'd rather jump to the resolution so we can make a decision, maybe just once it's been read.
Okay. All right, great. All right, so let's go ahead and get started then. Let's jump into item 6. Brad, would you please read the resolution into the record for us? Sorry, my apologies.
All right.
Go ahead.
A resolution of the Village Commission of the Village of Biscayne Park amending the 2023-2031 capital improvement plan for fiscal years 2025, 2026 to amend various recreational capital improvement projects, authorizing the village manager to do all things necessary to carry out the plan, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, thanks, Brad. Do I have a motion and a second?
Motion to approve.
A second? Okay, so let's go ahead and start the discussion then. I'm moving along a little quickly. Vice Mayor, is this as is? Are we just starting the discussion? Were there any changes?
This is as is. You know, really what we're talking about here is how we use our CIP funds. Currently, we're using the 90,000 from pickleball. We are using the rec center improvements and the rec center playground improvement funds combined to allocate to $200,000 to match the $200,000 funds that the state would be giving us.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
So there is no CIP attached to the agenda that we received. Is there something that we're supposed to see? I don't have internet either. So I am sort of tied hands into looking at these numbers now.
Yeah.
So is it anything change for what we saw on Thursday?
No, nothing's changed since we saw on Thursday.
Okay, so and again, I can't open it. I don't have it.
Send it to my phone. If you go under the Wi-Fi, you'll see my name and I'll give you the passcode.
Or you can forget the network, tell your computer to forget the network and then find it again. That worked for me. I did that too?
Yeah, I did that too. didn't I?
Twice.
Well, aren't I just lucky?
Thank you. I already tried with my phone. It doesn't work. And again, I don't know if, does anybody have internet? It's just me.
You off of my phone, so you can tap onto my phone if you want to, Veronica.
I just saw it.
Yeah, you need my password.
You want to?
And while I give her my password, would you
tried.
run through the 3 numbers, please? Because the pickleball number didn't seem to match up on it.
Sure. The pickleball number is $90,000. I'd have to pull it up. The rec center improvements was $60,000, and I have to pull up the other ones. I can't quote them all off my head. You have them? No, you have to go back to the next one.
see playground upgrades, 60,000, rec center upgrades, 40,000. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, rec center upgrades 40,000, playground upgrades 60,000, and pickleball court upgrades 124,000. So add them up, it adds up to over 200. We're 24,000 over what we actually need for pickleball.
May I ask you very quickly?
Excuse me, for playground upgrades.
I really have, I guess just one question. Are we able to reallocate pickleball funds that are allocated to pickleball to a different thing, like parking? It was brought up. Somebody made the comment. Does that work?
That would be a question for our grant writer, and I believe he is on Zoom with his hand up, so he could answer those questions for us.
Hello?
Robert? Yeah, you are.
Robert,
Hi.
who are you?
I am Robert Ruano, President EcoStrata Services. My company's hired by you since about 2022 to do grant writing and compliance. So I just want to clarify that we do grant applications for you, but we also do compliance on 3 grants. And first of all, let me say I'm very sorry that I was not at the meeting last week. I didn't realize, to be honest, that it was a commission meeting. I thought it was a community meeting and everybody was in favor. So, but anyway, to the question, the FERDAP grant, Florida Recreational Development Assistance Grant, is used by multiple cities. I personally have been dealing with 3 of your managers in the last several years about doing some sort of grant at the rec center, the Burke Center. Finally, this past year, you did a CIP, and that was great. And then that's why we were going after it. I say all that to just tell you that, yes, if you go after, let's say you were to apply, and one of your commissioners, 2 of them have already asked me, if you were to apply and put in pickleball, you could afterwards, you could replace it, but you would have to replace it with another recreational facility. Okay. So for example, recreational facilities are pickleball, tennis court, basketball court, tot lot, playground, walking path, field. So they're outdoor recreational facilities. The parking lot is what's called a support facility. Okay. So you have support facilities, which are restrooms, parking lot, security lighting, water fountains, trash receptacles, things of that nature, right? So the answer is yes, you could switch pickleball if you put it into the application, switch it for something else, but it would have to be another recreational facility, okay? Something that actually people can get out and enjoy.
Nat, our current facilities some of our current facilities would fall under that category. You mentioned the playgrounds, you mentioned the fields, you mentioned a couple of the other items, the basketball court, those would qualify, is that right?
Correct. When we went out there, I went out there, I think about a month ago with our grant writer who's on the call also, Uma Yanes, who's been dealing with ESA. When we went out there, the elements that we spoke to with the manager and the commissioner, Huntington, sorry, were the playground, the walking path. Okay. There's a lot of areas in the walking paths that can be improved, and then doing a connection from the walking path to the bathrooms. And that would be a great ADA, connection. And then I think he talked about the pickleball. Okay. And then maybe I said, well, if you wanted to, we could if you wanted to, and you had the money and the will to resurface the basketball courts or get new nets and stuff or new equipment, that could potentially qualify as another recreational facility. So for the goal of this grant, which most cities get, and I get for a number of cities, we do, you want to have 3 recreational facilities and typically 3 supporting facilities. So that's for the $200,000 grant. And that's a dollar for dollar match. Okay. The same, they have a smaller program. You can ask for $50,000 for a recreational facility without a match. Over $50,000 to 150, it goes up to 25% match, and then it's a 50% match. Okay. So you can make up your mind about what the elements you want. I'm here to just get you money, and I'm excited about it because, like I said, this is the 3rd manager I've spoken to about this grant. You mentioned El Portal. I've worked with El Portal for 14 years. That's how long my business has been around. So I know this grant, and I'm hopeful. I just want to get you more money. We worked, so that we worked on the grant for the building that you're in. I think it's $136,000 from the state. We've worked on several freebie grants, a vulnerability assessment grant that you received, a small tree grant. We just submitted a water quality grant, and then we submitted a notice of interest for something called a brick grant. So, you know, and I just want to say this, whoever you hire, you know, my concern for you is just the grants that we've gotten, and I'd be happy to work with that person, make sure that you don't lose any of those grants, because it's tough to go back afterwards after you have to give back money. So that's my 2 seconds. Sorry for being so
May I ask
long.
a couple of
I have a question as well. But
Please.
my first one was regarding what you just said. We've applied for this grant before. Have we ever had issues where we apply and we don't actually
No.
go through? Okay. So we don't
No,
have
we
any
never
serious-
applied. We've
Okay.
never applied for it. We've been talking about it, but without a CIP, a capital improvement program, you score very low on it and you typically won't get funded.
Okay, that's what I was going. So it's not that we haven't gotten it. We just never applied because first step we needed to do was to get the CIP
Correct.
in order to
Correct.
be able to score better.
Yeah, and also you want the community to decide and you to decide what projects are you going to fund in future years. So that CIP is very important for this.
Yeah. Okay. And then in terms of the budget, there's one that necessarily does not need a match. Why haven't we kind of pushed that one? Even if we didn't have a CIP, or that as well, even if it was allocated no match, needed a CIP to mirror.
Because you still really needed a CIP. Part of the application is they want you to submit a letter from the manager that says this project was either in a CIP or will be put into the CIP, and the CIP with the project highlighted. And I think what happened here was that you're trying to get more specificity in the project line items to change the CIP now.
And then the other thing, you and I spoke yesterday about this, but I want to make sure I put it out there. So we have at any point the opportunity to change the contract at any of the items, correct?
Well, okay, you have the opportunity. Typically, I've dealt with the state, and I've dealt with the state on this for many, many years. You can put an amendment after the fact, so they would score it now. And as to the people that say, why should we apply now? We don't have a manager. The reason is we can apply for you now. We're working with ESA. The application can go in on the October 14th. The ranking at the state usually happens the next several months. If it's like last year, they won't let you know until June of next year, and you won't get a contract until August. So, you know, by the time, if you do get this money, you'll have a manager in place.
Correct. Got it. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Okay. Robert, it's Matt Kennedy. How are you? We've not met.
Good, how are you?
Good. I asked for a phone call with you today and no one replied back to.
Oh, where did you ask for that?
I contacted the village manager and he didn't reply to me.
Well,
So
nobody reached out to me, sorry.
I'm not surprised about that. So that's a conversation for the next agenda item. So a couple of questions for you, Robert. I need to understand this a little bit better. The pickleball. So if we include pickleball in the amount of $125,000 and we don't do it, it has to be used for some other kind of outdoor recreational activity. It could not be swapped to parking. But could we, if pickleball were not part of it now, could parking be part of it right from the get-go?
Yeah,
Because
parking would be, yes.
Because
The answer is yes. Oh, sorry.
We
Oh, you
have
were
a project in place already that we've spent quite a bit of money on already to develop the parking there. We have a plan in place. It's ready to go. So could this be reconfigured to take the word pickleball out of it and put that amount of money under parking and let parking be part of this project? It wouldn't pay for all of it, but it would pay for a nice chunk of the parking and get us started. And maybe it would be focused around the playgrounds. We'd figure that out later. But could parking be part of this initially?
All right. So, and I'm glad you asked that question because there's two things to FERDAP, okay? So you want to have the 3 recreational facilities and you probably have the 3 support facilities. Pickleball is in recreational, parking is in support. So typically if you took out pickleball, you can't replace it with parking, right? It's a different.
I mean to not include pickleball at all from the beginning. I thought.
Right. So
okay.
Let me just, so now you have 2. You've taken 2 recreational facilities. So you want to include a 3rd to make yourself more, more competitive. and you can include parking in the support. The key is, okay, they do, if you go all the way and you go for 200,000, they do 200, over 50% or more of your spending has to be on the primary facilities, and then the rest on support. So you can't do like, I'm going to do parking and lighting and whatever for 300,000 and do 100,000 a playground, right? So as long as you do that, you can do it. You could switch it out right now and put something else. It's up to you.
That's where I'm going with this, because here's my problem with it, and I'm speaking to my colleagues up here. It's the word pickleball being any part of this, because that's not been vetted in any way. I will have no business voting on the word pickleball in any way. That lives in here because a couple of residents came and asked for it. A commissioner brought it to us for a discussion, and we said, let's just drop it over here and we can address it another day. We made up a number because we couldn't even get a quote. We made up a number, right, Art? Art's nodding his head at me. We made up a number, dropped it in there. If that's key to this, then I'm say get it out. And Robert, if I'm going to repeat back what I thought I heard you say, if we go for $200,000, we would have to say 100,001 of those dollars is to playground equipment, and 99,999 could go to parking. We have to be over the 50% threshold for the activity. Yeah.
If you ask for 200,000, 200,000 or more has to be for primary facilities.
Got it. So half of it has to be for the primary facility, which in this case
Yes.
is playground equipment, and less than half would have to be, let's say it's 50-50. Okay, that makes a whole lot more sense to me than including pickleball in this conversation at all. Because I don't want to give this community the idea that we have any intent for pickleball. I also don't want to apply for a grant, and then it just feels manipulative. Not saying that in a judgmental way, just kind of saying how I see it. It feels manipulative to try to get something done. And look, I'm manipulative as the next guy when I want to get something done. But we're dealing with the public's money. I just want to be really clear about that. Pickleball has never been vetted in any way by this community in any way. The person who sponsored it is sitting here nodding his head. Yes, that's correct. Okay. So if the word pickleball is out of this equation, I am a lot more amenable to this. I want parking in there. Guys, we spent, do you know how much we spent on the parking stuff already? $25,000?
About that.
Yeah.
124,000.
Yeah. So we have spent a whole big chunk of taxpayers' money getting ready to do something that this village needs, the parking at the rec center. That got run through the commission and committees and big conversations. We needed it. We spent money on it, and there it sits languishing. So if that were included in this, it makes a whole lot more sense to me. Now, I have another question. Robert, the three categories are playground upgrades. I understand what that means. Pickleball, I understand what that means, unfortunately. And then rec center upgrades. Guys, correct me if I'm wrong. When we were talking about the CIP, I remember us having a conversation. I remember asking, well, what are rec center upgrades? And I thought it was interior stuff. I thought it was kitchen and they need new appliances and it was facility related. Does anyone remember? It had nothing to do with playground equipment or anything fun. It had to do with practical stuff.
It was for rec center upgrades, and there was no identified project for it.
But he did talk to us about it, didn't he, Veronica? I'm not sure if you were here yet, Ryan. I think you were probably at the meeting.
I remember when he said we should bring in a designer, and you said we shouldn't pay for a designer. I remember the conversation.
It was all kitchen stuff, wasn't it, Veronica? Inside stuff like that.
It was both, actually. I remember having a discussion with Isa about more than pickleball. If you guys remember, the way it was originally set in the CIP was just pickleball. I requested to include the wording recreational updates so that we can put everything.
Those kind of things in there.
Because otherwise it would have been very specific, chess to pickleball. But Isa had a whole list. I did ask to receive, I haven't. I know that there is a wish list of things that he wanted to see. I don't know if he's in the line. Is he online?
So Robert, could those kind of things, let's pretend Isa needed a new kitchen and it was going to cost 30,
Yes,
I don't know.
okay.
And he needed $30,000 for a new kitchen in there. Can that be included as long as it stays under the 50% threshold for the fun stuff?
Restrooms and concession stands are acceptable.
That would be a kitchen, a
for
refrigerator, or a sink?
kitchen for staff, as far as I know, is not really acceptable.
Actually
I'm
used by
talking
the
about,
public.
well,
Public uses
it
the kitchen
is,
too.
I guess. Well, what I'm just saying is typically concession stands, and we could ask, concession stands and restrooms are the typical ones.
Okay.
And sometimes maintenance buildings.
Okay, because that's in here, that's another one of the numbers that's in here. It says recreation upgrades, and I understood it to mean what Veronica just said. And if some of those things can be accomplished with this, then that also makes sense, because now we've doubled our budget on that. So I understand what you're trying to do. It's what we're jiggering around here I have a problem with. If it were parking and it were the playground equipment, obviously, and I'm as concerned, I don't have kids, so it's easy for me to say, kids are gonna fall off something all the time. Don't kids just fall off things all the time? And if you're worried about kids falling off stuff, then maybe we shouldn't have playground equipment at all. If you're worried about your kids falling off something that's higher than 3 feet. I would like to see that surface addressed. There's all kinds of, I mean, there are professionals who will guide us through all of that, but the surface seems to be a problem for me. And I know you intend for some of this to address the surface as well. Yeah. So, and we don't have to slice and dice all that tonight, but I can have this conversation with you. I'm going to be a no in its existing form because of the pickleball thing. I want the parking taken care of. We've already spent a lot of residents' money getting to the point where we're ready to start digging up and fixing the parking. And there's other things that go along with it. It's not enough money to do it all, but we could get a nice chunk of it done and get that train out of the station, and then every year be applying to try to get that done as well. Robert, I have a couple other questions for you. So if the worst case scenario, we get this and we don't use it at all, how does that impact our ability to get approved in the future?
Well,
Let's say we did nothing. We did nothing and said, forget it, we're not doing anything. Worst case scenario.
Yeah, they would look at you negatively in the future. There's a question if they've ever received funding before from FERDAP, and they would look at it and potentially score you a little bit negatively.
Gotcha. Okay.
But you could still get funding.
Okay, so we wouldn't want that to happen. And that's it. So guys, that's my big desire. You know what I'm about. I want to get this parking. This is an opportunity for us to get the parking going. If that's the case, I'm in.
I'll say that I agree, parking is an issue, but we have a line item for parking. There's money in the CIP for parking to address that issue. And every dollar you start taking large chunks away from playgrounds means smaller playgrounds for our families, means smaller recreational amenities. So if you're taking the current playgrounds we have and replacing them with smaller ones to pay for parking, which is a different project, that I'm not in support of.
I didn't say smaller playgrounds. I said,
Yeah, but it has to be,
move money around from place to
if you
place.
start moving money around from place to place, it starts dwindling the overall intention.
I also hear parents complain about going there and driving there, and there's no place to park when there's soccer going on or other big events. It's dangerous because people are parked on the sidewalks. You hear all this too. So I'm trying to strike a balance here. I'm trying to work.
And maybe we could do a small piece of parking with this, and then phase into this. The good thing is FERDAP comes every year, so every year we could do the
That's
parking in
exactly what
phases.
we're saying the same thing. I would like pickleball out and parking in. That's my big desire.
Robert, could we, if you have to get the three recreational amenities, could we change it from pickleball to say basketball court resurfacing? That way it's a improved amenity we have. It doesn't
Yes,
cost
and
as much
remember,
as
oh, by
pickleball.
the way, we have 2 playgrounds. I forgot.
That
We
you
have
can do after the fact.
smaller and the 2. So
Yeah, but then the word pickleball wouldn't be there. It would be basketball
But
court
I want
resurfacing.
parking in is what I'm saying.
yeah, you can do that.
Yeah,
And that's not
basketball
expensive either.
resurfacing.
What it sounds like, maybe the way to go about this, if there's support for it, would be to keep the money allocated for the playground, keep the money allocated for rec center, change pickleball to parking, but change that amount
Yes.
to then allocate that to basketball court improvements.
Decrease
Now
parking.
we're over 50% for the 3 facilities, and we're still allocating some money for parking, which is a secondary.
Does it mean we
So-
have to spend a certain amount of money for basketball?
Only that it needs to be over
An activity.
because right now we're at $100,000 for the rec center and the playground.
So my issue is with the numbers up in the air like we're doing. I just don't get how we're here days away from the deadline and we don't have the rec director in line. I haven't heard the manager speak one word. And we're about to approve, moving forward with the grant. I'm 100% behind this, Ryan. I think it's amazing that you found it. I think it's what we needed to see 10 years ago. Reason why I also had my kids grown out old without seeing a new playground. I don't like the way we're doing this one bit. This shouldn't be done this way. This should have been brought by the rec manager in the 5 different budget meetings we had. 5. That didn't happen. The same thing, and I don't want to put Isa on the line, but unfortunately, that's his role. He's the director of the department, and we spoke about wish list. We spoke previous budget a year ago, okay? A wish list that was going to go in within pickleball/recreation. So when I hear all these comments of nothing has happened, a lot has. This commission has worked really hard on that CIP needed in order for this to pass. We just heard the grant writer say that. Without the CIP, it couldn't move forward to have the available points needed. So it just seems to me this is something we want to tackle because we're so tired waiting. I'm all in for that. I'm as tired as you are. And I'm the first one supporting this SOPs. That was my first item in the agenda, I think, 2 years ago. It's gotten us nowhere. So in terms of processes, we don't have anything writing. Again, here we are trying to pull our hats, numbers in the go to close a budget for huge, major renovations that are needed. So I'm the first one to say, go for it. We've never had processes before. Let's keep moving this way. We have to start somewhere, so I'm okay with bending the rules. They haven't been so far for 2 years. I just don't think it's good to talk about numbers so informally, not having been supported by anybody. We're just saying, well, we'll put it into basketball and then we'll switch. This is the first time we have a conversation publicly with the grant writer. And my first question was, why hasn't this happened before? And of course, the explanation was, well, we needed a CIP. Perfect, we got that. Next. Well, you needed to know exactly what projects are going for. I want to hear from the rec manager. I want to hear from the director, from the village manager about how we're pulling all these pieces together that had been worked for a while since previous budget. But here we are. Our manager is leaving, so that's the other reality. So that's why when it comes to processes, I don't like this one bit. It makes me really uncomfortable. I haven't heard anybody come against the pickleball, not the pickleball, the rec center upgrades. None. Nobody called me to say, we're hating this can't happen. On the contrary, people have been super supportive because we need it. It's old, everybody can see that. The process has been the issue. And I can't fight the process. We're here, I'm ready to vote yes. We'll figure out along the way and we'll move forward. It hasn't, 2 years in the fight of this, hasn't gotten as far, so I'm a yes for it as well.
Robert, why didn't you bring this to us before? Just curious. You're working on other grants. What did this leapfrog over and how did we get here this way? Why did you not bring this to us? You're our grant writer and I thought your job was to look for opportunities for us.
All right. Commissioner, who's this? Who's speaking? Commissioner
It's
Kennedy?
Matt Kennedy, yep.
All right, Commissioner. All right, let's be clear about something. I get hired by the village manager, and I had brought this to the village manager. I brought this to 3 village managers before. We have been talking about this grant, this particular, about the rec center, at least a year. I've actually been in front of the commission one time before. So my role is to bring those items to the village manager. That's my role. I don't, if they call me or they want to know if he wants to report, if he wants this, I've been talking about this grant for a long time.
Okay,
That's all I can
enough
say.
said, enough said.
All right.
Well, I don't know if you've looked at our agenda tonight, but I placed on the agenda tonight a topic of alternative revenue sources. We need to discuss the lobbyist and how that person brings money in, the grant writer and how that person brings money in, and then getting our own private funding for things because the commission has the ability to do that as well. To Vero's point, we need to organize our thoughts here and go after things in a logical way is what I'm hearing you say, Veronica. So I'm not crazy about the process either. I'm in if we make those changes, otherwise I'm out. I want parking. We've already spent a whole bunch of money on parking. Let's just it has something to do with the rec center. People will be very happy when they see that that's getting done too.
So can I propose something then along the lines of what we just talked about? I agree in the parking situation. I'd like to see some money go that. I'd like that to close that loop. It'd be great. But I want to see the playground, the rec center, all those things really important. I agree 100%. To match what we need from what Robert has just told us, we got the three facilities, the 3 rec facilities. It's going to be the playground, the rec center. We'll do basketball court. Okay, the basketball court could use some help. 60 for the playground, as you've written, 40 for the rec center, as you've written, and we have to make it over 50% on these main facilities. So let's take park, go ahead, sorry.
You're getting into the number, those numbers are how we get to our $200,000 match. That's not
Right.
what we're gonna spend on those facilities.
Right. That's our part.
And Robert, this question I have for you, do we have to identify the projects? If we identify and we have to stick to the 50-50 rule, can we change what we're spending on certain projects, still staying within the 50-50 rule? Is that an amendment we can do as we move
Yeah.
through this process?
Yeah, it's typically, yeah, we've done that because quotes change. So as long
So-
as you stay within that,
So
and
we just
for
really have to make
example,
the
if you,
decision- We really have to make the decision, do we want to include pickleball in this or no? And then do we want to use the funds earmarked for pickleball for rec center improvements? Those are the funds that we would use from our CIP to be in the $200,000 match. That's really what we have to agree on here.
So
Take
pickleball versus
So-
what exactly? Say it again?
Will be- Yeah,
Yeah, I'm for parking 100%.
yeah, so we can identify parking, we identify playgrounds, and then
Split it half
and
and
then
half.
as we go through this process, as we go through our RFPs, we decide how we spend, as long as we stay within that 50-50.
Ryan, can we make, Ryan and Richard, or Robert, since you worked on this, can we make this really simple and only have two things in there? Can we have parking for 100,000 and facilities for 100,000? That's the 200,000.
It's 400,000, so you could. do
But the ask is
100
200,000.
facilities
The ask is 200,000.
No, it's the total $400,000 project.
Understand that. We're matching. The grant is $200,000.
Yeah, but you have to identify how you're gonna spend 400.
Understand that, and we're gonna identify it in the CIP. I'm just saying, could we simply say, instead of having these three things that are all ambiguous, can we simply say, parking $100,000, playground upgrades $100,000? And that way, half is fun, half is serious, and there's the 50-50 that Robert's looking for, and keep it that simple.
no, what can I say? I'm sorry, may I interrupt here? 200 has to be fun and 200 has to be serious.
But it's 400,000, it's 200 from us and 200 from the grant.
So you have to show them how you're spending 400,000.
Okay, I'm just,
So if you spend
our
100
part
on
in the
parking and
CIP.
100 on playgrounds, you still have 200,000.
But the resolution is to change the CIP to support this. We're
I'd
not-
be in support of 300 for playgrounds or recreation amenities, 100 for parking. Our whole parking budget is 124,000. That's a lot of parking.
No, it's not. That may be.
That's
phased.
what our CIP is.
Wait,
And that, okay, but that'll be enough to phase us into parking.
The resolution in front of us, Brad, unless I misunderstood this, the resolution is to approve the changes to the CIP. That's what the resolution is.
So that's what was described to me as to what was needed. Robert, if I may, it's Brad
Okay.
Weissman. I'm the village attorney. So what was described for me is that what the grant cores needed was a resolution amending the CIP for the 200,000, for lack of better terms, of the project that was going to come out of the city's or the village's funds. So have you seen the resolution, Robert?
That's what the resolution says. It's about
know,
200,000.
I-
That's what I'm saying. It's
Commissioner,
200,000 in the resolution.
Because this resolution may have to be completely redrafted. So that's why I'm
No,
asking the grant
no.
writer.
Let me explain something because I want to chime in on this. Your CIP is your CIP. Let's say you're going to spend 200,000 on the parking lot, okay? And you apply for 100,000 for a parking lot. That doesn't matter. As long as they want to see the item in the CIP and it highlighted when we send it to them so that the item is there. You can apply for 50,000 out of an item that you put 100, or maybe you had allocated in your CIP 100 and you asked for 75 because you didn't need it. As long as the items are there, don't worry about the numbers so much.
Okay, but our the reason I keep bringing up 200,000, our resolution is simply about changing the CIP.
Exactly. So if I'm understanding, Robert, correct me if I'm wrong. So in order for you to change your CIP, you need to do it by resolution. That's a fact. That's the only way you can change your CIP.
Right.
In order to apply for this grant, as it was explained to me, and again, Robert, this is the part I need you to correct me if I'm wrong, is that you needed to change your CIP to reflect, I'm just using the projects names for the sake of discussion. The pickleball tennis court upgrade, recreational improvements, which was a playground upgrade, and the rec center upgrade, which was a total of $224,215. That needed to be, the CIP needed to be amended to reflect those items in that particular manner so that you could apply for the grant, so that you could show, not necessarily the resolution, but you could show your amended CIP to reflect those projects so that the grantor would give you the points necessary for an approval. Plus, $10,000 moved from contingency. So that's
That is
my
correct.
Okay, so then from the lawyer's perspective, this seems like at some point, before you approve it, there's gonna have to be a motion to amend it. And I need some direction, because since I have to draft it, as to what exactly you're amending it to, because
Exactly
now
what I'm talking about.
honestly, I have no idea.
We need to amend the CIP. The resolution is to amend it. That's why I'm saying, move our part of the money around. It's not $400,000, it's half of that. So I'm back to where I was. You know where I sit, Jonathan.
Okay, but Robert's indicated to us that we can change on our application how we allocate the funds down the line. So if we can agree that pickleball can be removed, parking can be put in, we're staying with at least the 50-50, and then we're spitballing numbers here. Let the RFP process go through and decide what we need.
Yes.
And so no, we're not shortchanging one project or the other, and as much parking as we can get done, we get done.
So then I think what the numbers need to reflect, and it sounds like we were all talking about the same thing, we just needed to get there. It's playground 60, rec center 40, parking 100. We've hit the 200. We show it in the CIP. It shows we have the money allocated for it. We're matched. We're set. That sounds right. I think that's right.
So all right, so I get it. So part of it,
Okay.
the playground upgrades is staying the same.
Correct.
Rec center upgrades is staying the same.
Correct.
We're adding 100,000 for parking.
Correct.
And what are you doing with the pickleball tennis?
Taking it
court
out.
upgrade?
It's no longer there.
I don't think that's gonna work. What's
The
the
f-
basketball court? You need 3 recreational facilities. You only have 2 now.
No, you don't need 3.
Do we need
We
3,
talked-
Robert?
Yeah, we talked about, to be competitive, you want 3. We talked about redoing the sidewalk around the park, which is a walking trail essentially. And I saw people using it all the time, to fixing some of those areas and then connecting it on one side to the bathrooms. Okay. That'll be a recreational facility. And
part of
actually
the-
that's very much needed, to be honest.
That's part of if we were discussing this fully, that's part of the parking project. It involves moving sidewalks. It's all part of, not moving sidewalks, but, and we don't need moving sidewalks, but moving the sidewalks to accommodate some of the parking and other things. So some sidewalks are gonna have to be moved, so some of that can go in there.
Robert, currently the line item would be, if we amended our CFP as written, it would read rec center playground upgrade / pickleball. If we just remove the word pickleball out of it and just let it be called rec center playground upgrades, allocating 200,000 to that line item, would that be sufficient for the state? And then we can identify all the other priorities of this project as we go along, as we apply for it? Robert, you still there?
Sorry about that. The one thing I would tell you is that just, if you're amending it anyway, just put Ed Burke Recreation Center. Okay. It might be a simple thing, but it's easier for reviewers to make connections with things like that. That's the
So
only thing.
We could change it to Ed Burke Recreation Center for the $200,000 match, taking money from pickleball, rec center improvements, rec center upgrades, playground upgrades, rec center upgrades, to allocate to 200. We identified that we want parking in there. We want our 2 playgrounds replaced, adding repair walkways as we can, and we let the RFP process dictate how we spend the money. We can amend as we go, but those are the identified projects.
You can do that.
Yes, you have to show that, but as long, you have to stay within the 50-50, where at least 50% or more has to be on fun stuff. And you could do, so it would be described as Ed Burke Park. And then for 200,000, for the $200,000 match. And then as he writes the grant, he would write in there that support structures would be less than 50%. As long as we identified the themes, we can move the money around as we want. Yeah, but he's saying that
Honestly, at this point, I'm lost. I'm sorry. I understand. You need to give me some direction as to what you want your CIP to say, and I'll draft a resolution.
We don't need to identify that. We just needed to say Edberg Park and where the 200,000 is coming from.
In the CIP.
In the CIP.
We're talking about in the
We're
CIP.
talking about the
The
CIP.
CIP had to reflect that.
Can the
the
CIP just say
included.
Ed Burke Rec Center, or does it need to actually amend the items that we've been discussing?
It does not. If you're asking me, it does not. 200,000 for the Ed Burke Rec Center is fine.
So Brad, is that sufficient for you?
Mhm.
Mike on Brad?
Thought it was. It is not.
Lump them together.
So we're taking the pickleball tennis court upgrades, the playground upgrades, and the rec center upgrades, and merging them into, we're amending the CIP to merge those into one item, which is called the Ed Burke Recreational Center.
Robert, does that work?
$200,000.
Yes, Ed Burke Recreational Center upgrades, yes.
All right.
Okay, but so then I still have another question because the numbers don't work out.
Numbers don't match.
So you have $124,215 in the CIP for the pickleball tennis court upgrade, 60,000 for the playground upgrade, 40,000 for the rec center upgrade, and I guess we're not moving.
We can
So why
throw
don't we,
more.
why don't we leave it's over because it'd be 224,000, correct, Brad? Why don't we leave the 24,000 in there for pickleball? That would equate to a 25% match for a future FERDAP grant. So that way we're not fleecing pickleball altogether. And that way we're still leaving some money in there for pickleball and then for a future FERDAP grant. And
So you're
it still gets
putting-
to 200.
So you're putting so you're leaving $24,215.
That's fine, because we could, if we wanted to spend it, if we wanted more money of our own, we can overmatch, so we could go grab that if we wanted to. I don't care about that. Okay, so we have the CIP fixed, which is really our only job here tonight is to fix the CIP, so that's fixed.
Correct.
So
But I want to be assured that that grant is going to be 50% of that grant, when you apply for it, Robert, is going to be talking about parking at the rec center. And you can also get the information about the money we've already spent on it. We've already taken steps in that direction.
Wait, hold on 1 second. I'm sorry. Is this Commissioner Kennedy again?
It
Sorry.
is.
All right. No, 50% will not be parking. 50% will be the serious stuff. 50% will be the fun stuff. Thank you for those comments, though. I like that. But yeah, 50% will be the serious stuff. And there will be 3 elements, and one of those elements, 3 at least, and one of those elements will be parking. Just to be clear.
So 50% of what we are getting, we can apply to, we can apply to the serious stuff, and within that serious stuff is parking. So the money will be going to parking. Shaking his head, yes. Okay.
I'm not certain that's what he just said back. That's not what he said.
That's exactly what I said. Sorry.
Remember what he said. We can identify, we can move the numbers around as long as we identify the themes and we work towards the themes. We can, as long as we stay within the 50-50, it might not be exactly 50% parking and 50% playgrounds. It might end up, 60% and 40. As long as we identify the themes, we can allocate the numbers as we go along and amend. But we allocated the themes: playgrounds, parking, resurfacing the basketball court, fixing small support structures like walkways and things like that. We'll let the process dictate the product after that. We've done the big part of changing the CIP to match.
So how do we change the resolution? I'm still not clear. What do you want, what I wanted to say?
And we're no longer, but if I may, Commissioner, I'm sorry.
No, that's,
Go
ahead.
And we're no longer moving $10,000 from contingency into the new line item, correct?
We don't need to.
Okay, I'm just.
It's going to be a straight $200,000.
Just making sure.
Correct.
So then the way this resolution is going to read, if I'm understanding this correctly, is if you're all reading along with me, section 2 is going to read, the village hereby adopts an amendment to the Village of Biscayne Park Capital Improvement Plan for fiscal year 23-20 through 31 to include combining the following line items from the 25-26 into one line item titled Ed Burke Recreation Center Upgrades.
Yeah.
And the items that are going to go into there is pickleball tennis court upgrade, I'm sorry,
We're not going to delineate that. You're just going to.
no, it's 200, well, I have to delineate, because what I'm doing is we're taking items that already existed and putting them into a single line item and changing names of,
Combining them into one.
and changing names. So I'll figure it out. I guess at this point, I can't figure it out on the fly right now. So I
Know
understand
how
what
much
we're
you're
trying to do.
allocating, and you
I-
know what the line item needs to read.
Yes. And the rest I'll,
Because you have to write it with the changes. You have to explain the changes.
and
in the
somebody's going to
resolution.
have to amend the CIP because I don't have a version in which I can amend.
Hold on. Can you
I think I have a-
read what the changes are gonna say? I want to make sure that you have it as clear as I do. I don't have it clear, so
I can't hear you, Vero.
I have to read the resolution corrected as it's going to be,
There's
not
going to
just
be a
amended later.
single line item entitled Ed Burke Recreational Center Upgrades.
Yeah. For how much?
and For 200,000 total.
Yes.
And that, the line items that are presently in the CIP titled pickleball tennis court upgrade, recreational improvements playground upgrade, recreational improvement rec center upgrades are going to go into the Ed Burke Recreational Center upgrade, with the exception of $24,215, which will be in a separate line item for pickleball tennis court upgrade. So that's how the CIP will look when you look at line items.
And that's what we have to approve tonight.
I mean, I can't give you the wording because I've got to sit down
You got it.
when nobody's talking in my ear and draft the resolution.
Understood.
But that's where it is, that's the way it'll read.
The 24 pickleball tennis court, is this something we can change later on?
Separately, you could always amend your CIP again.
Okay.
We're leaving that in the CIP for a later date, or we could reallocate if we want to.
Have to do something with that extra money because it's
Perfect.
sitting there.
So
So
we'll have the conversation with the community in terms of what that's going to look like. Does it need specifically to be pickleball tennis court. That was the point.
yes.
All right.
Okay,
That, do I
that
have
sounds
it?
correct.
Okay.
We make a motion.
We
to
have a
approve?
motion, we have a motion on the floor.
So what's that?
Do we have a motion to pass the resolution as it's been amended?
Motion to approve is amended.
We have a
Second.
second? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
May I just say something? Look, first of all, congratulations, you got it done. And it's all going to be good in the end. When people talk about process, this sloppy stuff, it drives me bunkers. Coming in here last minute and this and numbers flying around and trying to get an attorney to change your resolution. Look, we have an item on the agenda tonight about alternative revenue sources for this village, lobbyist, grant writer. We need to take that seriously, get those people in here and figure out what we're doing so they can do their job properly and chase down what we want them to do. This is nuts, and we don't even know what the lobbyist is up to. So, this is no way to run a tight ship.
I don't disagree, but when I found how mismanaged this was, I owe it to the residents to push it as much as we can.
I'm not knocking you for that at
It should have been managed before I was on the commission, and it wasn't. And so I tried to right a wrong, and thankfully we did.
I get that.
All right, so we have, all right,
Now can we talk about the real problem in the village is we need
another
another
item. This, I will tell you why. I have my son's Boy Scout troop here. They were supposed to lead us in the pledge at 6 o'clock because they're getting their citizenship belt loop. That's
Oh, nice.
what they were here for. I don't know that they're gonna be able to wait around for another hour. I would really hate for them to leave and not get their belt loops. Would anyone be okay with taking 5 minutes to let them do the Pledge of Allegiance?
Well, why don't we do this? Can we move that, can we walk the manager item onto our regular, adjourn this meeting, walk that item onto the regular commission meeting, call it to order and let them do their thing?
I mean, we can move that up.
Same thing.
We can,
Move it over.
Let's move it up and let's.
Yeah,
do it
just-
first.
Do it in additions, deletions and withdrawals.
or what you can do is you can move to table this item and then we can open up the next meeting, move the table, then the items on the next meeting and reopen this,
that.
do that.
Motion to table this meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion to adjourn this special meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Being adjournment, I'm gonna bring them in so we can start our second one. I appreciate it. Thank you, everyone. excited? Okay. Okay. Madam Clerk, are we ready to begin?
Go, sir.
Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and call to order our regular commission meeting. Today is Tuesday, October 1st. It is, what time? 6:35. We're going to go ahead and get started. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll for us?
Mayor Gross,
Here.
Vice Mayor Huntington,
Here.
Commissioner Amsler.
Here.
Commissioner Holland,
Here.
Commissioner Kennedy.
Here.
Mr. Mayor, you have a quorum.
Wonderful. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Okay, so we have here with us this evening Troop 305, our Lion Scouts. They are going to get their citizenship belt loop here, and they're going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Before we start, boys, you want to say hello? Do you want to tell us your names? We're going to start down here.
Thomas,
Thomas,
Lennox,
Lennox,
Jordan,
Jordan,
Gideon.
and Gideon. All right, boys, are you ready to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? All right, everyone, let's go ahead and stand up, please. Wait for everyone to stand, and then you boys go ahead and get us started, okay? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good job. Well done, boys. Did you get a picture for them for their belt loops? No, I would love it if everybody. All right, guys, turn around. Would the commissioners stand up for us? No, I want everyone in the picture. All right, everyone gets in the picture. I'm in jeans, I'll take it. Go ahead. Everyone else want to get in? All right, everyone. Say cheese. Cheese, fromage.
One out.
Good job.
What a
guys.
ham.
Good job, dude.
Awesome job.
Way to go, boys. Oh, wow, that was a big one. Good job, Thomas. All right. Good job, Lennox. Good job, Jordan. Good job, boys. All right. Okay, guys. Whoa. Oh, wow.
We're gonna walk out this door, okay? Ready? Line up. Line up.
Be good for mommy.
Line up.
Be good for
Line
mommy.
up. Ready? Go. Mark.
Okay.
Bye.
Well, thanks everyone for indulging. I appreciate taking a few minutes to let them do that. They're they were really excited.
Since you did that, I love it. We were supposed to be doing that every meeting, and I really wish we would start that tradition again.
It reminded me of that. We were at a Boy Scout meeting and the citizenship came up and I said, we were doing this and this would
I
be.
met a resident the other day, an adult who just became a citizen, and she's all excited to vote for the first time in a couple of weeks.
Oh, that'd be
Those are the
great.
kinds of people we need to hug into the system.
I agree. Well, I very much appreciate the time, everyone. Thank you very much. So let's go ahead and do our additions, deletions, withdrawals to the agenda.
Or do you want to do a motion to table this and go back to the other agenda?
I'm sorry?
Are you going back to the 5 o'clock agenda?
Oh, sure.
Oh, then it's just, we need we need somebody to make a motion to
Well, I
table.
thought
the
we were going to go
agenda.
through the additions and add it, but that's fine. We can do that too. Do
Motion to table and resume the 5 o'clock agenda.
we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Then we need a motion to reopen the 5 o'clock agenda.
all right.
Motion to reopen the 5 o'clock agenda.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay.
Now you can handle the item.
Wonderful. So new business, we have two items. The first one is discussion of the manager's resignation. Chris, do we have you listening?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, great. Okay, so this one was put on. Chris, I believe that this is, I know, Mac, you had brought it up. I believe this is with respect to Chris's resignation and request to waive the 45-day notice, correct? And Chris, that's correct? You're asking us to waive the 45-day notice?
Correct.
Okay. All right, so this is just a discussion item, so I'm just going to open up the floor. Chris, if there's anything you'd like to say before we get started, I'd welcome you to go ahead and say anything you like.
I think at this point with my resignation, the commission needs to get down to the business of bringing the next manager as quickly as possible. Having me hang out for the next 45 days would not be in the best interest of the village. So that's why I'm asking for just a 2-week from the day of the resignation, which would be next Friday.
So Brad,
The 11th, correct? Sorry. No. The 11th, correct?
Correct.
Okay, go ahead.
so Brad, he's asking us to release him from the terms of his contract. If we do that,
Oh, he is, you're
Okay.
correct.
if we were to do that, what are the repercussions? What do we owe him? What happens here if we decide to do that tonight?
If you release him from the terms of his contract, and he's not in breach of his contract, and he would be entitled to whatever, he'd be entitled to whatever benefits that any other employee leaving, separating from the village in good standing would be. So if you're letting him out, then he's leaving in good standing.
Okay. What are the benefits that he would?
The only thing that he would be entitled to is his unused annual leave, which I was asked to reach out to payroll, and I don't remember the exact number, but it's about $867 and change.
Okay. Well, we would want to confirm that amount because we want to make sure we reconcile the days that he's taking, because recently he was
I can
out for
give
a
you the
couple of
exact
days.
amount. I have
Okay, so we'll make sure that gets reconciled properly. So are we obligated to accept his notice to work until next Friday, or could we release him now? I mean, he just said he'll be of no use to us for the next 45 days.
You have three options. You can accept his ask and allow him out of this particular term of his agreement, which means he separates from the village in good standing. You can indicate to him that, and I'm talking by consensus of the commission, of course. You can indicate to him that that we're not letting him out of the condition of his contract. He would have to remain the village manager for 45 days. You would obviously seek an intern in the meantime. Or you can counteroffer his request. He's basically making an offer, and you can counteroffer his request. And if, I guess to your point, if you said that we want to separate from you effective immediately, then you can offer that to him.
And today would be his last day.
If
Okay.
he accepts it, then today would be his last day, or whatever, or any time in between what he's asking. and
Understood.
The 45 days.
Okay, so if I'm talking to you guys now, he doesn't want to stay here for 45 days, and he wants to stay until next Friday. I'm not sure what value we're going to get from him through next Friday. So I'm in favor of offering him to be released effective immediately and have Brad settle the score on remaining days off. I would just ask that someone verify those. I recently asked Chris to show me his days off, vacation and other time he's taken off, because it got very loosey-goosey. He was not reporting things to us. Turns out, according to what I read, he took some vacation when he should not have, and there's some other things that need to be reconciled in that. So I'm not confident in the number that Brad may have gotten from our accountant in terms of how much time he has accrued. So somebody would need to verify that closely.
You can do that? Okay, well, I have his payroll as well, so you have his actual request for time off. Okay, because I got from payroll, make it clear, he had, of course, okay, he had 18.6 available hours of unused annual leave. And basically his hourly rate is 48.08.
I would want to make sure that all of that was reconciled, Pamela, properly, because recently he emailed us all that he was gone for 2 days. I wasn't clear whether he was working or not. He didn't really make that very clear. I want to make sure that everything that he took off is accounted for properly.
That was vacation, and it was done through the system.
We'll verify that.
So if we were to do that, if we were to say effective immediately, I don't know that anybody, I should open this up first. We have about 3 options, what Brad's saying. I don't know that anyone is suggesting that we mandate the full 45 days. Does anyone really suggesting? I just want to narrow the options.
No, we can't.
Okay.
force them to stay.
So really, then we're looking at 14 days or sometime under that. So if we were to do that immediately, the only question I have is who steps in? Because I don't know, we already have to look for an interim manager before we start the process of looking for a manager. I don't know how I would feel about having that position empty if we don't even have a beat on anybody that's going to take it.
Well, okay. Did you guys get the email that I had asked Pamela to send today? So you all got a copy of I contacted the ICMA on Friday. They called me back and provided a search guide for hiring a city manager in the state of Florida. They also provided a list of managers in transition who would step in. There are some local people here on the list. There's one in the room tonight, and I think there's 2 or 3 on Zoom. Is there more? There's two.
Yeah.
There are 2 in the room tonight, and there are several on Zoom, and there are people who are on this list. So they're all here. I would be in favor of asking the police chief if he would fill in until we select an interim manager, if it required us to take a beat there and find the right one. If we didn't do it tonight, get an interim manager selected. But I don't see any reason to keep Chris Truitt around any longer than today.
Jonathan as well. I invited Al Childress. He's a Biscayne Park resident here. He comes with almost a decade of experience as a village manager, and I think it's just someone we could seriously consider being our interim. Yeah, I'm not going to take his resume away to present his resume for him, but he has had 8 years at Doral, another stint in Key West. He was a former commissioner of ours. He's been a Biscayne Park resident for close to 40 years, is it Al? Yeah, so I think it's something we could seriously consider and hear from him tonight. And I don't agree with the police chief because he has a lot on his plate. He's a new police chief. I think having him run the village for any time would be detrimental to our village. He needs to focus on police and his traffic issues.
And if I can, just if you were, and I'm not trying to talk you out of appointing the police chief as an interim, but if you were to do that, the chief would have to appoint an acting police chief while he serves as the capacity of an interim, because under the Florida Constitution, dual office holding, he can't hold both positions.
I'm also going to hand out Al's resume here to all the commissioners.
Thank you. Oh, yeah. Do you have another one, please? Thank you. Excuse me.
Thank you.
So I think before we really make any decision on that one, we probably have to decide what we're going to do if we have an interim. I don't know that we, unless there's an appetite to make a decision on the first item before we move into an interim position.
I think in my experience, you're always better off having some sort of a transition, even if it's, I don't want to, even if it's not, even if it's half-assed, you know what I mean? Like, I would be a fan of asking Chris to stick around for a week. Looks like we might be able to appoint an interim manager on the quick. And having someone here to help, just even for a few days, might be helpful, as opposed to Chris leaving the building and someone walking in and having no formal transition, no handshake, no, here are the files, here's the pass, or whatever it is. You know, I mean, I've been in that position before. I've been let go of a Fortune 500 company, and you know, they kept me around long enough to help transition to the new guy. So it happens, but you know, things happen. I would be a fan of asking Chris to stick around for at least long enough to help the interim manager get acquainted.
Yeah, I completely agree. We need that transition period to let him go tonight. I mean, if he's offering to stay for a week and a half, we need that transition period just to fledge out who our interim's going to be. Let the attorney speak with him and come up with a contract. To me, there's no clear-cut internal interim where our staff is already, pushed to the max right now as it is. They can't take on any more responsibilities. So bringing in an outside, I think, is essential. And I think we need at least that week and a half to fledge all that out.
You guys are a lot more confident in his ability and interest in helping us out until next Friday. I'll just put it that way. He's made it pretty loud and clear what his opinion about this place in the past couple of weeks or months. And I think you're just handing him some more money for no gain for us. I think you're a little bit naive, to be quite frank.
I'd like to ask Chris, so what are you thinking in terms of a transition? When you hear people suggest that you'll have this week to transition, where are you at right now?
The transition, in my opinion, would be ideal because right now there are so many irons in the fire. We have several grants going on. We have several other projects that are in the early stages. We have some transition that needs to be done, especially now with accounting. Right now, I am your accounts payable, and we need to get that process squared away before I personally leave, so we can get that shifted over to finance. So my suggestion would be, whether it's the end of this week, whether it's the end of next week, build in some of that transition time so we can at least get some of that stuff done.
Chris, it's Mac. Where are you?
That's what I was asking.
Oh,
So I,
currently I'm in Fort Myers with the police department command staff.
So you're out of the village with the police chief. I guess a commander's in charge of the village now. Were you guys notified that Chris isn't in the village this week? See, this is what I'm talking about, guys. Jonathan, were you aware that Chris was out of the village this week?
Only from the email he had mission saying that he would be traveling with them.
Did you get that email, Ryan?
I thought that was an email, no?
That's the one I got this afternoon. That's all I got.
so I found out yesterday through the clerks. That's why I was asking, because if you're going to be there, or the idea was for you to be there until Friday, we don't have until Friday, obviously, to do the transitions. That means you would need to return immediately and consider you here for maybe 2 days of transition. I don't know if anything can be done in a transition in 2 days. I don't think it's also efficient to keep, I don't feel comfortable with the statement that it's not the best of, it's not in the best interest of the village to keep you any longer. So I'm wondering, and that's why I'm asking you, sort of what documents you have in place, what sort of system, you're leaving, you put your resignation. So I'm wondering what you have ready to provide to anybody coming tomorrow.
For anybody coming in tomorrow, we have the CIP, which is actually has to change now. We can have the grant writer fill them in on what's going on. The one thing that we don't have any policies, processes, or procedures in place for is accounts payable.
So is there anything urgent between this week and next week that needs to be flagged?
The accounts payable system.
Accounts payable, which we have a person starting yesterday? No, I'm sorry, that's with Paul, the new system.
No, Paul, the other admin won't start until October 14th.
Okay.
And we have a big, I'm not sure, well, I know Chris is aware, but there's a big building records transition getting ready to happen.
Yep.
What, I'm sorry?
The records for the building department.
I can't understand you.
Switching.
Yeah,
software.
I can jump in
Okay,
on
yes.
that. We're changing from OpenGov to CAPS system. So we are in the process of pulling all the data out of OpenGov, getting it to our building official, so that they can then get that information either into BSNA or their proprietary system, or even just a shared drive for future access. We are also.
Is this something, I'm sorry to stop you there, just so I go by point. Is this something that can be pushed back?
No, we have until the end of October to get this started.
To get it started, you mean?
Can't push it back because the problem with it is starting October 1st of this year, hold on, it's one thing, but HB 267, which we're going to talk about later tonight, which deals with timeframes for approving of permits. I spoke with the building official today, and they need that transition so that they can track and ensure that those permit approval processes comply with the new statute.
Well, there is no way we're going to get there to transition, for what I'm hearing, since we're not going to have a manager who's trained to do this sort of transition.
He is scheduled to come in Thursday morning to sit with me to start. I'm a records manager certified, but he's coming in with me on Thursday to sit down so we can put the things in place. But there are other things that need approval, like we need a new server. There's some mini stuff that needs to be purchased, and Chris has all the information and expertise where that's concerned.
Is this all part of the approved budget already?
The
This is
the change from OpenGov to CAPS system is not, it has no budgetary effect other than an eventual decrease.
Okay, but there's nothing, I'm hearing there's servers that need to be maybe acquired.
Yeah,
Okay.
we learned literally today or possibly yesterday, that we would have to do a server upgrade. So that's gonna come out of contingency or tech or someplace else I find in the budget.
Okay. All right. So it seems like we don't have time anyhow. Even if you were to be here another week, this is a monster on the go and that someone's going to have to pick up and figure out. I am pro also having some sort of a transition, even if it's few days. I think it's necessary to pass hand to hand documents, passwords, files, software. I mean, there's a lot to pass on. This is not something you can just pick up and go. So as much as I understand you want to leave, and I think we're all clear that that might be the best at this point, I think there is a professionalism that I expect from you to make sure that whatever time's left is given and the best purpose of just transitioning to whoever comes next.
Mr. Mayor.
Are you saying that you want him to stay the full 45 days, Veronica?
No, I'm asking maybe for
Oh,
1 week,
okay.
maybe at
Sorry,
the
I
end of the week, and then that's the next conversation, but I don't think we can terminate to your proposal.
You offered till the 11th. I was happy just with a few days. If he's happy with the 11th, I'm great with that. I would love to get this done and move on to the other
Yeah.
things we have to get to.
Understood,
So,
Brad.
Mr. Mayor, just a point, if you're going to, if you're gonna put somebody in place internally as an acting manager, as a stopgap, before you get the interim appointed or hired, that will work a couple of days. But other than that, remember, if you appoint somebody from the outside as an interim manager, they need a contract. I can't unilaterally approve a contract. It's got to come, I have to negotiate it with whoever that individual is. It has to come back before you all at a public meeting to approve it. So you have, there's a time lapse in there to seat a hired, quote unquote, hired interim manager. Just, you need to, I'm just telling you that so you have that calculation in your time frame.
So if we wanted to do this before Chris leaves on the 11th, we would have to have a special meeting for us to get together and approve the contract for the interim.
You would have to tell me, we'd have to figure out who that was pretty quickly and.
I think we might be able to do that.
Well, I understand that. Well, it's just for argument's sake, if it's this gentleman, then him and I would have to sit down, we'd have to negotiate an agreement. And once we're able to negotiate terms of an agreement, we would have to have a special meeting that's properly noticed so that we can bring it before the commission for the commission's approval.
Probably notice would mean how many days?
Well, your rules say 7 unless it's an emergency. So,
There.
and if it's an emergency, I got to look back at the rules. I think it's
Isn't it
24
24 hours.
24 hours, 48 hours.
Right.
Right.
So I mean, there's some mechanisms that have to take place.
I understand. Well, there's already been 3 commissioners that said that they're in favor of an interim period of sorts, or it's 14 days. Is that what the 3?
Motion to approve Chris's request to go to the 11th? That seems to be where we're all landing.
Well, what's the other, but before we get to that point, I apologize, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but before we get to that point, we also have to, what are we doing with the remaining hours that he has? Are we paying, or we're letting him out of the contract? Or
What was the total again?
Oh, I thought that was $1,000.
And what were the hours in question that we were?
About 18 and a half,
Yeah, but how many hours? Okay, it was $1,000. What,
Eight.
She said it's
about 18 hours.
and his rate's what?
If he were to go by next Friday, under his contract, he would be entitled to be paid that money.
Yes. He will be,
We're talking about like under $1,000 were in question here.
it was like $867 and change or something of that amount. It's going to accrue a little bit more because he's still working, but marginally.
Yeah, accrual is only, for 2 weeks, it'd only be 3.33 hours.
I'm with Commissioner Holland here. I'm ready to vote on this if we're ready.
800, right now it's $894.29 for what he.
That's the total, not the allocated numbers that Mac is questioning whether or not they were properly
don't-
or improperly used.
Right, that's
that's
based
next.
based on what payroll has told me his unused annual leave, which
He-
is the only thing he's entitled to.
He most likely deserves most of that. It's just the getting down to the exact hour.
Okay, so then what's the motion? Your mic's off. Your mic's off.
Motion to approve the request from former manager Truitt to be released from his contract on Friday, October 11th.
Second.
Just need a consensus.
Yes.
So all in favor?
Aye.
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 We already have three.
My goodness.
So can we talk about the process to hire a village manager, which I think starts with the interim? Or, well, I guess it's both conversations. So let's start there.
Jonathan, being that we have a village resident who's put himself forward and he has extensive experience, if we would allow him to speak at some point, I would appreciate that. Let him present himself.
Certainly. So just before we get to that point, I don't want to delay it any longer. I appreciate you being here with us. Is this how, obviously we have to go through the procedures to hire a manager. We're going to need an interim. So is it the direction of the commission, the will of the commission, that we are appointing an interim, and that's what we're starting on right now?
That's what I would believe so. And like I said before, I don't see a path to an internal one. Our staff is stretched to the max, and our police chief is a new police chief. He needs to run his department and continue his department. So an external one seems obvious to me.
I just meant the chief if we needed someone to fill in a gap between Chris and the interim. If there was a gap in there, that's all I suggested that was for.
Okay. All right. So we got a couple of candidates. Ryan, you mentioned some. We have Mr. Childress here with us. Mac, I think you mentioned.
I'm not advocating for anyone. I'm just letting you know there's.
Oh, no, that's
some in Zoom.
that's
And
not-
there are
I wasn't suggesting.
There's a list, yeah.
I wasn't suggesting you were
I
advocating.
don't know if any of them want to speak. I just know they're up there. I see them.
Okay. Well, then, if it's all right with the commission, then we can invite Mr. Childress.
May I say something before we I think we should let any of them talk. Sure. I don't know, Al, we've spoken on the phone. But I'm personally not comfortable hiring someone live at this meeting right now. I'd like to talk to someone a little bit and reconvene. I'm leaving the country on Friday for 2 weeks, but I'll Zoom in from wherever I am. But don't know if there was a candidate here who I knew and had the utmost confidence could come and do this, because it could be months or many months, right? So we don't know. It's an undetermined amount of time. And I think if we learned nothing else recently, this commission, take your time and check things out. And I'm not suggesting anything about any of the candidates that are here to talk to us tonight, but I don't think we need to be rushing in and hiring someone that some of us don't know at all. And there's not any of them who I know well. There are some that I have met and I've talked to, but I'm not comfortable even hiring an interim based on a quick conversation, stand up at the podium and talk to us for 3 minutes and hire them to run the village. It's a little iffy.
I would normally agree with you, Mac. I really would. I don't, people talk about process, but we're not just talking about a bird in the hand, and we're talking about an eagle in the hand. We're talking about an exceptional candidate who's strong, big, deep roots in the community. This isn't, I mean, nothing against anyone else who's wants to put their hat in the ring, and I agree with you. They should put their hat in the ring for a long-term decision. But in the short term, given everything I've heard from everybody about how we can't, we have so many things that are lagging, and we need a village manager who can help push things through, I would be okay with playing.
John, you have the benefit of knowing him and the rest of us.
That's true.
That's what
I
I'm
do,
saying.
but I also
You and maybe Ryan do more than the rest of us. I can only speak for myself. I don't. We've had, when we were hiring the last village manager, I reached out to him and I had a conversation with him about applying for the job here then, and he had just gotten a job in Key West and was very happy down there. Now, whatever changed in his life changed and he's available. But I don't know him other than that. I had one conversation with him and then he called me the other day and we chatted for a couple more minutes. And I said, great, I'll see you at the meeting. Look forward to meeting you in person, which I did on the porch here a couple of hours ago for the first time in my life ever. So I'm just saying, I'm not personally comfortable voting for anyone that I've never had a chance to have a real substantive conversation.
How about we let him speak, because no one's motioning that to hire him right now. We're just letting him speak.
And I'm saying I'm not comfortable voting on anyone here tonight.
Completely understand. Well, you've said that. Let's move on with the meeting.
Why don't we, not to take any time away from you, again, I appreciate you being here, but we do have a whole agenda we haven't even started with. Maybe if you could give us just a very quick, maybe 3 minutes to kind of introduce yourself, explain, we have your resume, which is helpful.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, because this unfortunately cannot turn into a full interview process right now. So
But-
maybe give a couple of minutes to anyone that's here, took the time to be here to talk to us.
Just to be mindful as well that we have other people, so they might have the.
I'm, right, I meant,
opportunity.
I didn't mean for just Mr. Childress, I meant for anyone that's here that's interested. So,
And we have a very full agenda.
yes, exactly, I agree. So,
Mayor of North Miami has been waiting very patiently on Zoom to say hello to us, by the way.
okay, so maybe we can make this quick, Mr. Childress, if you wouldn't mind just taking a minute to introduce yourself. Let us know
While
you're interested.
While
What's
he's
that?
walking to the microphone, just.
Yep.
The appointment would be by resolution.
Okay.
Which we can do it as a walk-on. Somebody will make them, if you're going to do it tonight, somebody's going to make a motion. Second, it'll be a resolution to appoint whoever it might be as the interim and direct the village attorney to negotiate a contract and bring it before.
Well, I appreciate the information, and let's not put that cart before the horse there. I think to Mac's point and to Ryan's point, I don't know that we're making any motion now to hire anyone, but so without further ado, Mr. Childress, would you give us just a minute or so, if you would, please?
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Commission. Thank you for the opportunity to address you this evening. My wife and I have been residents of the village of Biscayne Park for some 40 years, I guess. This was the first community we looked at when we wanted to raise our family. We had originally had a duplex on 119th Street. We owned one side, lived in one side and rented out the other side. That was when interest rates were at 18%. And
wow.
we couldn't afford, that's all we could afford. As time moved on, we were able to buy the house that we're currently living in on 112th Street. And we've been there for 32 years. As has been said, we have deep roots in this community. In Biscayne Park, Miami Shores, both our sons graduated from St. Rosa Lima. My wife was a mayor here, commissioner mayor here for a number of years. I was on the code enforcement board, a special magistrate, and then I was a commissioner. So we're very committed to this community. We have no intention of leaving, and it'd be an honor to serve as your village manager. And I would be willing to do that on an interim basis, and even until the contract was approved. I know that would take some time. I would be willing to volunteer my services until the contract was approved. So as has been said, I've been a local government now for over 40 years. Started my career with Miami-Dade County, then was with Miami Beach, and then I went to City of Doral, worked my way up, and City of Doral was in the city manager's office for some 8 years as assistant city manager, deputy city manager, and the city manager. And then the last 14 months, I've been in the city of Key West. I have a master's degree in public administration from Florida International University and a master's in business administration from University of Miami. And the city of Doral, when I was there, sent me to Harvard executive training for 3 weeks, which was very, very prestigious, very competitive. There was over some 35,000 applicants that had applied for that position during the summer, and I was selected to participate in that training. So you have a copy of my resume. If anybody wants to additional copies, I'll be happy to provide those to you. So just thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight.
Thanks very much. We appreciate you being here and taking a few minutes to introduce yourself and put your hat in. Did we have anyone else on Zoom that was here that wanted a minute to potentially put their hat in the ring or discuss the interim position? No? Okay. Okay. So,
Good evening, Mayor.
yes.
Hi, good evening. My name is Sharon Ragunan, and I could see why you'd have full faith and confidence in Al Childress. He's amazing professional. We know each other, and he's had an amazing career. So certainly, hats off to seeing him there and you all concerning him for the interim position. I have been informed as well about the opportunity to assist and provide any support that you need through your transition. It is my understanding that you all will be going through a process to hire a permanent manager. And as an MIT, I have the ability to provide that interim support as you go through your process. My background as well is that I have almost 30 years of professional experience in local government management. Some of the audience members that are sitting there today will remember me because at one point I did serve as your village manager. So I am also familiar with your community, some of the residents, and some of the issues that have plagued you over the years. And in terms of my professional background, I had also served as the assistant city manager for other large and mid-sized cities. I also have experience in code enforcement and building. I also have experience in doing the transition with regard to building records, and that is a very huge effort. So please ensure that you have the right project manager for that transition and ensure that you have the right critical path with regard to that process, because if it starts off right, you're good. If not, then you'll be enduring a lot of issues. I currently hold a master's in business administration from Florida Atlantic University, and I'm currently a second-year law student with the Mitchell Hamlin School of Law. It's a hybrid program with an anticipated graduation date of spring of 2027. So I am here, meaning here in Florida, for 90% of the time, 95% of the time for the next 3 years. And I'm also with the local professional organizations such as ICMA, Miami-Dade City County Management Association, and all the other professional associations that we have, and also have a support group of many professionals within our industry to lean on should we run into any particular issues that might be novel to your community. But I'm here to assist any way I can. I appreciate even having the opportunity to speak to you tonight, but also here to help however I can. But certainly I can see that you have some great candidates to consider as well. Thank you so much, and many blessings to you, all of you.
Thanks very much, Ms. Laguna. If we have no others that are waiting to comment on that, it might be helpful to those candidates that have spoken here tonight. Well, we have Mr. Childress, we have your resume, of course. If you could provide your information to the clerk, so it can be made available to us so we can have those discussions. I think one-on-one would be helpful.
Jonathan?
Yeah.
If he's still there, there's a gentleman named Ken Parker, and is he up there? You might want to let him say hello. He is not someone who would be interested in it. He is a senior advisor with the ICMA here in Florida. He's a gentleman I spoke with who provided this information, who said free of charge, they would help guide us through some of these processes to the extent that we would need them. And he joined us here tonight in case we had any questions for him.
And certainly, Mr. Parker, are you still with us?
I'm still with you. Okay.
Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you for allowing the Florida City County Management Association to have some time with the Village Commission tonight. Okay, senior advisors are retired city and county managers, and we are here to help our members as well as the governing bodies through some of the processes. We are not consultants. So let me just put that out front. So we're not a consultant. As we say, we come alongside the governmental body, and we come alongside the managers to assist in any way we can. Just from a process standpoint, normally what I see in an interim, if you're not filling the position internally, normally the governing body puts out a general advertisement, and it can be as short as a week or so, in order to see if there are individuals who are interested in serving as your interim manager. At the end of that week period, those resumes are given to the commission, and then they go through a formal interview process. That is what we normally see out there within the profession. Well, I would say the profession, what I see among other cities that I've worked with. Are there any questions that I can answer for you?
Thanks very much, Mr. Parker. I'll go ahead and open to the commission for any questions that they may have.
Ken, the email that would go out, is that to the list that you emailed me that I provided to the commissioners? Is that who that would be sent to? Or is it a larger list than that?
Well, there would be two types. One that we would suggest that you post the job opening on your own website. Some cities actually place it into the Florida League of Cities and the Florida City County Management Association, but we would also send it out to this list. And there are some other managers that have indicated that they only want to do interim work, and we would include them.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Parker? Well, Mr. Parker, thanks so much for the time. I'm sure we will be in touch about using the resources and in your groups and in filling the role. I think we need to have a discussion about this at this point about how we're going to go about filling the position.
Okay. Well, if you have questions, feel free to contact us.
Great, thanks so much. So if what Mr. Parker is seeing is that we put out an advertisement for the position, we give it about a week. We don't have a whole, Chris is going to be in place for a little bit over a week. Advertise it to these groups, the managers associations, put it out to the people that might be interested. And then you have an opportunity for the commissioners to speak with each of the individuals that put forth their resumes. I don't know about waiting a whole nother month to fill the role, but I think we got to get started. So I think it would be in our best decision to have the clerk work on that advertisement, getting it out to these groups as quickly as possible.
You mean for the interim or the permanent job?
Say for the interim.
Okay, well, I think you have some interest here among some of our colleagues to just hire someone right here on the spot. So I think they're going to push for that here.
Right.
Maybe we should have that conversation before we talk about putting the message out.
Sure.
Why? But before we do that, I'll just reiterate that I'm not, I have no reason to not want to offer the job to Al. I just, knowing that this could go on for months, this position could go on for months until we find someone, I want to make sure that we're doing the best for ourselves in an interim capacity as well. And maybe he would apply for the permanent job. I don't know. But I just want to make sure that I would want to talk to everybody. I would want to talk to everyone that we would consider. And I'd want to, before I would vote on anybody, want to have a chance to sit down and know more about them.
There is also the proper background checks needed and all the formalities that need to happen. I mean, this is not going to happen today.
That would happen once you select, you would rate, generally what you would do is you would go through an interview process similar to what Mr. Parker has described. You would rate the candidates in order. We would determine whether that first candidate is available and interested in the position. If they were, the background check would be done at that stage. And assuming that there's nothing in that background check that would disqualify them from the position, you would then start negotiating the agreement with them.
And Brad, question?
Are we actually talking about here? So minimum time between the notice of a special commission meeting, all that we're discussing. So by when can we put a meeting and so-called any interest candidate?
Well, I mean, you set the time frame as to when you want responses. So
There's a minimum time.
Well, there's a minimum time in the sense that you want to give people time to respond. So you could advertise it. I mean, it generally this is a process that takes several weeks, which is kind of why you had in your agreement what you had as far as the 45-day notice. Obviously, that ship has sailed. So you're going to have to modify your process to some extent. But it's going to take, I mean, it would have to give, in my opinion, this is really not a legal opinion, so I got to qualify that. You would need to give at least a week to 10 days for people to respond, and then give time for you to individually interview those individuals that you want to speak to, And then you would have a public meeting where those people would obviously be invited to be here, either in person or on Zoom. You could have further discussion about them or further interview of them publicly if you so choose. And then you would vote on a resolution appointing a particular person.
But we could condense
don't-
that a bit. We could condense that a bit, correct?
You're going to have to, obviously.
Yeah, so thank you. So I was more referring to the least available, least mandatory time we have to let residents know that this has happened as a public meeting, that we're going to have a special commission meeting to discuss.
You have to
That's
give
48 hours.
hours.
Okay. So is this something we can do by Friday? And I'm just throwing out,
Do what by Friday? The special meeting?
yeah, just
Oh,
a
we can get-
special meeting, so we have enough time, at least 48 hours in advance, to review some of the applicants, have a time to have a conversation.
We have to.
Well, we don't have applicants yet.
That's what I'm asking in terms of
Oh,
of
right.
deadlines.
Okay.
So I'm just throwing out there a Friday just to start a date, but we don't have more than next week. So at what point they're going to transition, considering all the legalities that we have to follow? That's what I'm trying to.
I think we could possibly get something out there and say responses have to be in by 5 o'clock this Friday.
Yeah.
And then call a special meeting for next Wednesday, put it on the calendar now. That gives us time. I'll be doing mine, odd hours of the day from the other side of the world.
Why are we saying Wednesday?
Because I'm just trying to get, if we had a special meeting on Wednesday and hired someone and said, we need you to start the next day, it sounds like some of these people are ready.
They're not going to be able to start the next day. Remember, we still have to negotiate an agreement with them once they accept.
So that was my other question to you, Brad, and maybe it's to Ken as well, if he's still there. Is it typical that when we put these interim positions out there, that there's a package attached to it? Or do we ask them to tell us what they'll require to do the job?
Well, it's a combination of both. So they're going to tell you what their salary and package requirements are. And then there's usually some level of negotiation as far as, as far as what they want and what the village is willing to pay for that service.
Ken?
Al did offer.
What we have seen most cities do is that they give a general range of what the salary is going to be, even in the interim position.
Do we offer
that I've
benefits
worked
and
with.
FRS and all those other things that go along with the permanent job? Is it
No,
just the salary?
No, normally in the interim, okay, it's the salary because generally they're not going to be covered by pension and those types of things. Of
Okay.
course, they're going to have Social Security and those types of items that you always have to do. But the rest of the benefit types of things generally are then in the negotiations with the council or the commission. Interim is a lot different than your permanent.
Right. In the interest of avoiding two processes, one for the interim and one for, if for the permanent, Al did offer to step in pro bono. I can't look that gift horse in the mouth. I think we take him up on that offer, and that gives us two things. One, it gets us moving on some things that we need a village manager for, and two, it kind of gives him an idea of whether or not he really wants to join this circus. Again, not to toot his horn too loudly, but I can tell you Key West absolutely pays a hell of a lot more than anything we've been talking about. So for him to offer to do it for free is amazing, and long term is he has to have time to think about that. But in the short term, let's take him up on his offer. He wants to help us out.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just wondering if that's, at what point would this start?
So
I keep going around the dates.
So it sounds to me, and sir, correct me if I'm wrong, you had volunteered to be the interim until you could be put in place with an agreement as the interim. Okay, so then what's that? So then if that's what you're going to do, then somebody would have to make a motion tonight to appoint him as the interim village manager and direct myself, the village attorney, to negotiate an agreement with him and bring an agreement before you for approval. And in the interim, using the word interim, in the meantime, he would serve, based on his offer, he would serve as village manager at, for pro bono.
I just want to make sure I'm clear. So he's offering to do it for free before he gets the interim job. And if he doesn't get the interim job, then obviously he doesn't get it. But so he's not offering to do the whole thing pro bono indefinitely until we hire a manager. It's this very short term to come in and kind of keep the lights on until we get an interim person in place.
Basically creating an acting, you're hiring somebody pro bono to do an acting interim
Yeah.
manager.
See, I'd be more comfortable with that if that were a staff person who kind of knew what was going on already and was ready to step in.
Yeah, look, we appreciate the offer. I mean, I personally don't know how I feel about just saying, just come on in and do whatever until we have a contract. Just one procedural question for you. To negotiate the contract with an interim, is it ordinance or is it resolution? We need 2 meetings?
Resolution.
All right, so we can do it in 1 meeting. What if we were to advertise the position at a range? You were to prepare the resolution for the special meeting where we have everyone here, and we say, this is the meeting where we are deciding, we have the resolution ready for us, it's within the range, and we can fill out the salary at that meeting. Can we do that?
Well, there'd have to be, are you going to negotiate? You're all going to negotiate with him from the dais? That's not going to work.
I mean, I'm just trying to,
Him or her, I
just
should
trying to remove a step.
I-
I'm just trying to make it faster.
I've never seen that happen, because the problem is you have to have a consensus on, as to negotiate terms. So generally, the process is the village attorney or somebody is designated as the individual to negotiate the terms. And then the terms are brought before you and you approve them or not. If you by consensus tweak the terms and that candidate agrees to them at that public meeting, then the
Right.
agreement's modified, as the terms are accepted.
I don't personally really see a faster way around this, unfortunately, unless we're ready to appoint someone right away. And I don't know that we have someone in-house, so to speak, to take the position while we do this.
The answer, I think, is, I'm sorry, Ryan, go ahead.
I agree, we definitely don't have somebody in-house, so our staff is stressed to the max.
That was going to be my point.
I
Now,
will say, Al, I reached out far and wide to executive level, both in the public and private sector. He comes very highly recommended. His family is a welcome addition to our community for over 40 years. With what I've heard back, I'm very comfortable. And I didn't even know about his offer to bring in pro bono. To me, that's just icing on the cake that we have really do have, like, as Commissioner Holland says, an eagle in the hand here with his added experience. I went through Commissioner Kennedy's list when it got emailed to me today. The average experience, if they have experience on that list of village managers, is about a year. He has almost a decade.
Yeah.
That speaks volumes.
Yeah.
And everyone on that list don't have village manager experience at all. We made mistakes by hiring a non-experienced manager. Here's somebody who has almost a decade of experience and he's willing to work for free. And he's lived here 40 years. He's been a commissioner. His wife's been a mayor. They know the problems of this village. They know him full well. They've raised children here and he's ready to step in now to help this village. These chances don't come around every year. This is a great chance we have. And to me, it's a no-brainer.
I'll put it this way. And again, this is not anything about Al. If a village manager came to us and said, I'm hiring an interim police chief who I've never met because somebody told me he was great, I wouldn't be really happy about that. I'm like, well, you never even interviewed him? You're just going based on what someone else told you? It just makes me uncomfortable, and I just want the chance to be able to sit and talk to him and anybody else who applies for the job and make a decision. That's all. You guys seem to have more intimate knowledge of Al. I don't. So that's all I'm saying is I can't vote for someone I have not had that opportunity with.
Are you putting it to a motion then?
Motion to accept Albert E. Childress's offer to step in as interim manager on a pro bono basis until we can formalize a process to negotiate a proper agreement and interview other candidates.
Not to not to modify the motion there, but I think,
I'm just trying to get direction. So.
yeah, I think the direction.
Because
Go ahead.
that sounded like two different processes to me. So that sounded like, okay, and I'm just, if that's what you're doing, that's your prerogative. I just want to make sure it's clear.
Wait, let's clarify. Al, are you offering to step in pro bono while we interview candidates?
Okay.
I second Commissioner Hollinger's motion.
I would still, and this is no disrespect to Mr. Childress, I would still recommend as your counsel that before he takes the seat, that you do you have a background investigation done. And I don't mean any disrespect for him, but I think that is something that.
How long does that take approximately? Does anyone know?
If I can jump in on that real quickly, we can ask our police department to conduct a background check. It'll do the basic criminal stuff. It won't be as in-depth as the one that I went through with social media and all that stuff. But that might be something that can typically be done, I believe. Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, but that could be done within a matter of just a couple days.
Yes, sir. We can conduct a quick background check. It'll be still thorough enough, but have the information within a day or two.
So then,
There's so the motion is a resolution to appoint Mr. Childress as the interim village manager, subject to a background check, while the process to determine the hiring of a interim manager is yeah, while you go through the process of hiring an interim city manager.
And this would
Negotiating an agreement.
at a pro bono rate.
Right, yes, I'll draft it.
that was your motion.
That was the motion. And does it have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
This is very odd. Feels very strange. We need someone to pick up and sort of help us move forward. So I'm in.
Mr. Childress, you seem very qualified, and I'm excited to have the conversations with you and have you here. It would be very exciting, I think, but just based on where we're at right now, this is not a comment on your skill or your ability or whether I want you here. I think you would be very well at it, but just based on where we're at, I would say no for now, because I'd like to see more interviews, but it's already going that way.
For the record, I'm a no as well, but good luck, Al. Thanks.
But it passes. Mr. Childress, thank you very much for being here. We very much appreciate it.
I'm sorry, did that pass or fail?
That passed, Chris.
All right, Mr. Childress, can you give your contact information to the clerk? I can't hear. I apologize.
Yes, they'll pass along the contact information of the clerk, Chris.
Thank you.
Passing along the
Correct.
resume.
Seconded by the Vice Mayor. Myself and Commissioner Kennedy. Yes.
All right.
So
That's
that
the
just got
interim.
us through the interim to get
Interim.
to an interim. Now we need to figure out the next step.
Correct. Process for hiring the village
I
manager.
think the standard practice is how, I'm sorry, what was his name from?
Ken Parker.
Ken Parker said. That seems, we send out an email blast to these candidates and we see who comes back. I think a week is
The
standard.
list. I think you mean these?
I couldn't hear you. What's that?
He was talking about, I think, I don't want to put words on it, kind of adopting the procedure that Mr. Parker had put before us. So
And that included putting it on several different hours and several other different professional websites. And it could be emailed to all the people on the list. And he said it's a larger list than this.
right, yes.
You're going to need, so just to throw a little wrench in this, if Mr. Childress, and I know he left, if he's planning on, which I believe he is, asking to be the interim manager, then he cannot be involved in the process for appointing the interim manager. That would be a conflict. So there's going to have to be somebody else that's going to be coordinating that process.
That'd be
It'll
Pamela.
be the clerk.
And the
Right.
same thing will apply for the actual manager
Right.
if he seeks that position as well,
Yeah, understood that.
or whoever the interim is.
Yes, sorry, I apologize, Brad. So yes, I think that, we put together the advertisement, we get it out to the groups that Mr. Parker has advised us about. I know there are several other managers groups that could do that for us. Florida League, Miami-Dade County League, I'm sure could help get the advertisement out and do and help us with the postings there. But how long do we want to do? Do we want a week?
I think a week is good.
A week is.
I think a week is.
I want to say something
plenty.
about the salary, this range that we put on there. Might it just be easier just to put our current manager salary on there and say, this is the interim, it's budgeted for, it's what we're paying. Not the approved 20 fiscal 25 rate, the existing rate that it was yesterday, and just put that out there and let that be the rate.
For the interim position.
For the interim position, yeah. Yeah, we're gonna have a whole separate conversation about hiring a manager. Just make it simple and say, this is the pay, folks. If you want to apply, apply. They're looking for a temporary gig.
Yeah, I mean,
Rather than just big negotiation back and forth and ranges and all this stuff, just, here's the number, boom.
yeah, I mean, I think that's fine. So 7
Make it
days,
100, based on $100,000 a year.
current manager's salary.
No additional benefits.
Are you talking about the current one or 2025?
Well, we're in 2025, the one that was yesterday, $100,000 even.
But that's not what we approved for 2020.
Right, but this is an interim person, so just give them that $100,000 even based on that and move forward. And then they apply, for the permanent position, they get it, then we negotiate their permanent rate. We'll do that with whomever we select anyway. But no additional benefits, just salary, right, Brad?
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
I have a question.
No.
Okay, I'll place the ad for the interim and you let it run for 1 week. When do you want the ad placed for the permanent?
I think that's the next discussion.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, before we jump to that
Yes.
conversation, Brad, just kind of a question and point of order. So the commission appointed an interim. Am I then immediately second seat and the interim has all the approval duties and everything else, or what does that look like?
No, the interim will not can't take effect until your last day. So
Okay.
hopefully you and the interim will get together and there's a transition period, but you can't have two village managers. So
Okay.
you are the village manager until the 11th, and at whatever 5:01 on the 11th, Mr. Childress will become the interim village manager.
Okay, thank
When is Al starting? Tomorrow?
Remember, it's pending a background investigation, and no, it's not until Chris.
Can't have two managers.
No, but he was gonna not be the manager, but be transitioning in.
You lost me. Say that again?
That's what we had talked about earlier, was having an overlap.
Yes.
Where he's getting paid and he's not getting paid. He's not
No.
pro bono, but he's hanging out and getting everything handed off to him.
Starting to get up to speed.
He's going to get up to speed in the
Right.
next 2 weeks. and
Correct.
He will become the interim manager on
The day he
on
leaves.
the day that Chris leaves.
Correct.
So
There is
you-
a transition to happen before he's going to be shadowing. That's the whole point of it.
yes, but Chris is still making the decisions.
of course,
Still the
correct.
manager.
Yes.
We are going to have to wait for his background check to come back before we do pretty much anything.
Say that
He
again?
needs the background checks to come back before they do anything and that makes sense. Okay.
Al's gonna start, background check is done. Do we need to meet again to say he gets it? Or Brad, are you gonna tell us everything's clean and let him get started?
No, I'm going to, you've passed a resolution appointing him as the interim manager on a pro bono basis while the village appoints an interim village manager.
I thought it was
The
pending a
resolution.
background check.
Pending a background.
Pending a background
Pending
check.
a background check.
Right,
He's the village manager.
right. So who determines that the background check is good enough to have him step in and be the interim manager? The interim manager.
That'll be a discussion between the manager, so we know who the manager is. That'll be a discussion between Chris and I based on what comes out.
Okay,
If
so,
there's- And if there's an issue, then we'll bring it before the commission.
so you and Chris will decide if.
And
based on-
Pamela, actually, because Pamela is the HR person.
So the three of you will decide based on the background check that Al gets the interim job. And then he starts, and hopefully there's a little bit of an overlap before Chris is gone. I'm wondering if there's even going to be that overlap.
Well, there's no overlap where you have two managers.
No, I understand, but he's in there shadowing. We're not even letting him go in Village Hall and hang out and shadow until the background check comes back.
saying it kind of a,
It's not a good practice to, because
Still a
there's going to
background
be
check comes
Yeah,
back.
potentially
on that real
sensitive
quick.
information that he's going to have access to.
Yeah, exactly.
Once that background check comes back acceptable and we make the decision that it's acceptable, that could be potentially as early as Friday. That's at the point where I will bring him in and then start reading him into everything that we're doing.
Someone will inform us every step along the way what's going on. We'll get a copy of the background check.
No.
No.
you
No?
will not.
We got copies of background checks for the applicant
not have.
before?
Shouldn't be getting background checks.
Oh, we did before, okay.
Chris, now I understand you're up north. I would ask that then you come back immediately. I think the purpose of this is for you to prepare what transition's going to look like. If it's Friday, if it's Monday, as soon as possible, there is a sort of documents to put together and a status of each. There is no purpose I see for you to remain where you're at.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
all right. So then the advertisement will go out. It, Madam Clerk, how soon will it be able to go out?
I can work on it tomorrow
Okay,
and prayerfully get it out by Thursday morning, Thursday afternoon.
okay, so it'll run Thursday through Thursday the 3rd through Thursday the 10th?
Yes, yes.
Be the deadline for people to provide their documentation,
Right.
okay, to express their intent to be appointed. And then I guess we will need to set a special meeting to talk about the candidates.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll wait for Commissioner Kennedy so we can talk about picking a date, because we'll need to start going through the applications as soon as we get them. The 10th. So if it's worked on tomorrow, if it goes out the 3rd on Thursday, it'll run through the 10th. You look concerned. Okay. Okay.
And Jonathan, a procedure question here. Can we, or maybe a question for Brad as well, can we work with those applications through the clerk to get consensus on which candidates we want to invite to the meeting for selection versus, if we can eliminate ones via consensus?
Can't, because you can't do that. You can only discuss these candidates publicly amongst yourselves. So no.
So if the application sent to me, I can't say that I would choose not to interview that candidate.
You can choose not to interview them. You can choose not to talk to them. So there's no requirement that you have an individual meeting with them. But there's no way that you can notify the clerk, I don't want this person coming to the meeting when you're making the appointment, because maybe Commissioner Amsler wants that person. And
Well, that's what I'm saying. If
then your
applications are all sent out to us and each commissioner sends a list of ones they would like to, and if there's consensus of those individuals to invite, if there's consensus not to
No,
invite.
you can't poll, you can't poll.
then essentially you're asking the clerk to poll y'all. You can't.
That's my question, my procedure question.
No, you can't do.
Mac, right now what we're talking about is having the advertisement, the clerk work on it tomorrow, get it out by Thursday, run through next Thursday, the 10th, and then we're talking about setting a special meeting to start talking about the candidates.
And how much time are we gonna have in between the deadline and the meeting?
Say maybe a week.
I'm out of the country the 4th to the 20th. I will zoom in from the other side of the world. Pick a date.
When are we saying? What date?
The 20th, you said? We haven't picked a date yet. You want us to look after the 20th so you can be here?
I don't want to slow the process down for me and my travel schedule, so I will be there by Zoom. I may be in bed. I may be in condition not to be at a commission meeting. I'm on vacation, but I will be there. You can wait until after I get back, great.
I mean,
Let me slow you.
I was even looking at the 17th, but the 21st is only a few days later. I agree with you. I don't want to slow it down, but it gives us a little extra time to interview candidates. And
To-
certainly,
You can also open it up for a longer period of time to see candidates too.
That's probably even better.
Yeah. So, I don't know why we need to rush. I mean, there's going to be a transition taking place. We're having a person kind of grabbing all the paperwork and understanding where we're at. When you're back in November?
I'm just saying I will accommodate you guys.
Okay.
Let me know what you guys want to do.
For me, the last week of October, I can be here. So
How about
starting on
week
the
of
23rd.
21st.
21st, you have a,
The 23rd.
What about the
23rd.
22nd? That's in 3 weeks.
22nd.
I can do 22nd.
The first meeting in November is the 5th. Election day.
Say that again, Pamela?
Say your first meeting in November is the 5th.
No, it's the 12th. 5th is election day. Our first meeting is the 12th.
You moved it? Okay.
Election day.
Calendar does that.
How about the 22nd
Yeah, it
of
is.
October?
Good with that?
I'm unavailable the 22nd. I am
23rd?
23rd, I'm available, yes.
I'm on the 23rd.
I'm traveling the 23rd.
22nd, according to the calendar, you have a sustainability and resiliency.
That probably won't happen.
Okay, I'm just
Oh,
letting.
they-
Veronica, you're gone the 23rd for a while
Yeah.
then, right? Okay.
So I suggest November 1st is a Friday. I don't know if you're back or if anybody else can do that. I would suggest either November 1st or November 4th.
I'm good for both dates.
I'm good for both.
The 4th.
The 4th?
If you go back to October, the week, so the 21st, Ryan, you could not do.
21st?
Yeah.
I can do the 21st. I can't do the 22nd.
The 21st is the planning board meeting. Is it too late to change the planning board meeting? Is that already noticed? And our letter's already out to everybody and all of that? I know. The hire a manager.
think-
Could we have the planning board, meet at the rec center, or could we meet at the rec? I'll meet at the rec.
You don't want to have two public, you don't want to have a quasi, you can't have a quasi
Oh, they're quasi.
meeting and also a commission.
Got it,
meeting.
got it, got it. 21st would be ideal. Maybe they'll fall out of quorum. Kidding.
What about November 6th?
Yep,
I'm good for November 6th.
that's the day after the election.
What a- oh,
Can do that.
Okay, so that works.
is that called?
Code.
Code compliance.
No, that doesn't work.
What was what was the matter with the first?
7th.
7th.
7th is a Thursday.
What was the matter with the first?
For the first?
Yeah.
It's a Friday.
Oh, we had said the first and then,
It's a Friday.
Friday, it's Halloween. I don't know what's going to be there. I
Oh,
don't want to
right, right,
commit
right,
to
it's
that
Halloween.
night.
Thursday, the 7th?
I'm good
I'm
the
in for the
7th.
7th.
Be the 7th.
7th.
You want to extend the deadline for people to submit applications? right?
If we're
Yeah.
not meeting until then, we may as well.
Yes.
Meaning-
How about through
So-
the 18th? That gives us, we could even go further than that. No, October 18th. We're talking about extending the deadline for
From the
candidates to
10th.
submit their documents.
Okay, here's another little wrinkle in this, Jonathan and Brad. November 6th is an election, and we will have a new commissioner sitting up here. So I don't know how quickly that person will get sworn in, when the election is going to be certified and all of that. But now we're in a period where the commission might change by one member.
Mm-hmm.
So that's,
You'll just have to get caught up.
Whoever the commission is, the commission is. Just letting everyone know. And letting that person know to start checking his email.
well, the applications can be, the candidates' applications are a public record.
Yeah.
Mr. Samaria can certainly have access to them and prepare for the meeting.
All right.
Yeah.
So November 7th at what time? 6 o'clock?
Works for me.
Well, go ahead. The election won't be certified until I think that Friday, the 8th. So
Say that again?
the 8th, I think the county will do their certification on the 8th,
Got it.
that Friday.
So we will probably be meeting with this existing,
Exactly.
to hire the interim. Okay.
Unless something changes.
Got it. And so do we want to go through the 18th with advertisement or accepting applications? That's about 2 weeks, a little bit over.
Yes.
If we get the advertisement out by the 3rd, then through the 18th is just over 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So the deadline will be the 18th,
Yes.
To have the decision made,
or to have the applications. in.
Have people submit their
yes,
applications.
until the 18th.
18th, yep.
So
October.
then we'll get somewhere like Pamela, the 21st, early that week, following week, we'll get all of them at one time.
If that's the way you want it,
But you won't send them to us as they come in. We'll get them all in one lump.
however you want it.
I'm fine getting them all at one time. I won't be here anyway.
So the idea is that October 18th, you send us a package by the end of the day with everybody that has applied.
I will put 12 noon on the 18th. and
Okay.
then I'll get it to you guys by 5, 6 p.m.
Perfect. And then,
We'll get it to, I'm sorry, when?
By 5 or 6 p.m.,
18th.
6
It'll be
p.m.
on the 18th.
on the 18th.
Fair enough. Got it? Okay.
and then we have until when to make the decision?
We'll be meeting on the
We'll
7th.
meet on the
So we have
7th.
2 weeks, essentially, 3 weeks.
Yeah. Time.
That's what I'm saying. Do we need to have everybody do we need more time to have more people kind of be aware that this is happening and, no?
So you want to do more than, further than the?
I mean, I don't know why we need 3 weeks and to decide instead of maybe expanding it 1 week for people to send their resumes. We have more applicants to look at and then
Shorten
have
our period and give
our
them-
period for review. I think it needs to be shorter. I'd rather have more people applying. At the end of
Yeah,
the
so I
day,
was
we're not
just-
meeting until November 7th
I was just making a
regardless.
suggestion. That's fine. If we want to do the 25th, we can do the 25th. That's another week.
A good idea.
Okay.
That's fine. Madam Clerk, instead of the 18th, we're going to do 25th of October.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the
Repeat that.
deadline,
The
the
25th?
deadline to submit applications.
Okay.
November, yeah.
October 25th is the deadline.
That'll give us just under 2 weeks.
Okay.
To interview them. All right. Is that everything for the interim position? No? Yes? Sounds good?
Interim.
Yep.
We have a plan to hire an interim.
Yep.
Well, we have a plan to get applications and meet about them.
Correct.
How will we determine on this meeting on November, I think I missed this when I was in the bathroom, the meeting on November, what is it, 7th? How will we determine who will be interviewing that night? Or are we just
So-
meeting to discuss the applications?
I think we can, I think,
Because they can't poll us.
right, exactly. So there's,
Them all in?
Okay.
Or you have that meeting is a consensus to who you want to, who you, to create.
I say just invite them all
Finalists,
in
and then
we'll
finalists.
see.
yeah, I know, I
May-
agree.
May come to a quick consensus anyway.
Invite them on.
Invite whoever's interested to be here in person or virtually, and we hash it out then.
I'm in. I agree with that.
And we did agree to post a salary, not a range,
The current salary, correct?
current salary,
Yes,
fiscal 20, yeah, okay.
correct. Okay. Do we want to talk about the full-time manager position now? Because we're not,
I think that's a conversation, in my opinion, conversation for a later date. I think we've made a lot of mistakes when it comes to hiring quick, and I think we need to look at, if we have an interim who has tons of experience, we should tap into that, even if he is just our interim, and let him right some of this ship and fix these processes, fix these SOPs, tap into his experience, or letting him go.
But we don't have an interim yet. We have an interim for the interim.
I understand, but to set, we're to set any of those.
Just to be clear, we,
parameters
not the interim.
before we know what we're gonna do. I said, let's get through this
Uh,
interim first,
I
and
w-
then we talk about
I
it.
would like to see the job post from last time. Pamela, if you could send that to me, if the other ones want to see it, I'd like to see what was posted last time. It's a good place to start.
yeah, certainly.
And I also want to just throw something out there now. It's not something we're going to certainly decide tonight, but in terms of package for these, for the permanent hire, I would like us, when it's time to discuss money, to discuss some kind of a ramp up strategy that we would offer them, where it would be a starting salary and a 3-month review with a written included in the offer. You know, you get a satisfactory or greater, you know, you get more money at 3 months and then at 6, and we ramp them up and let them show their stuff and agree that we won't throw any extras at them beyond that. Last time it didn't work, you know? So it's just something to discuss. We don't have to discuss it now, but it's an idea I have in my head that I'd like to sort of put out there.
Yeah, look, it's certainly a discussion we should have about structuring it maybe differently.
Yep. Yep.
We can have that discussion when.
Give them a reason to perform.
I don't think it's a bad idea to talk about different packages and how we structure the salary. But I agree with you, now is probably not the best time.
No.
I think this concludes these items.
At 8 p.m.
So motion to adjourn this meeting?
No.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we are,
Motion to open the next meeting.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Aye.
Lordy.
Let me find it.
Jonathan, I
Yep.
just want to say something really quickly because I know you have an agenda to jump into now.
Yep.
The mayor of North Miami I don't know if he's still here. Someone from his office has been texting me. He has been here this whole time. Do you see Alex Desolme up there?
No, I do not. Samsung.
Let me text his assistant back and see if he's still there. Okay. Because, well, I'll tell you why when you do additions, deletions, and withdrawals.
Okay. So we'll give him a second to respond and let's kick it off. So we left off at additions, deletions, withdrawals. Do we have any that we want to talk about? I know there's a couple of similar items. I will tell you right now, in the effort of trying to kind of move things in the right direction with these agendas, I'll go ahead and I'll withdraw my agenda item for now, 12B, and I'll bring it back at a later time.
I'm also going to remove 12F in the sake of time. Yeah.
One's 12F?
What is the Great Outdoors Initiative?
Oh.
Okay.
Happy to bring that up if
And-
they bring up.
Okay.
And I'm going to join you on that and move my item to whenever it's possible on the next agenda.
Which
item,
yeah,
Vera?
which one?
And that's 12E.
Oh, E, okay.
Hold on, I'm losing track.
I got you. We got B, E, and F,
B, E, and F.
all in 12.
Okay, I'm going to pull some stuff too.
Okay,
So I'm going to push D, G, and H.
all in 12, right?
Yep, all in 12. D is in dog, G is in George, and H is in Harry.
Okay.
If Ryan will work with me, we have two very similar items. We could combine the two budget conversations. We can combine 13B as in boy, D as in David.
Thank you for catching that. Yes, please.
12C is cap. And I would rather not us try to have that conversation until there's a new manager in place. I think that's a very, very, very big thing. And and I'm not comfortable with the information we've had up to this point. And I want someone here, hopefully, who has some expertise who can guide us on that. So I would prefer that 12C to be pulled. The mayor, North Miami mayor, had to leave, but one of his staff members is in the meeting, and when it's time, she would like to speak during public comment.
All right, maybe we can
And I'm going to tell you why in a second.
Sure.
13A is Brad's item about the no camping in Biscayne Park. There is someone who lives in the village who is the local expert. She runs the Miami-Dade County Homeless Trust, and she lives here in the village. I reached out to her today. I haven't heard back. I would like us to have that conversation when she's able to come talk to us about it. She is the homeless advocate for the entire county. It's the organization that David worked with for many years. She lives here in the village. And I would love to have her input on that. So, and I know it's something that it's a House bill that we have to do something about, but I just like to have someone here talking to us about that. And then here's the other thing I want to add. So I know here we are yanking stuff off and we're very late. So guys, there's the city of North Miami passed a resolution recently, and when I caught wind of it, someone advised me of it. It was already too late to get it on this agenda, or I would have added it to the agenda. They passed a resolution supporting the local Haitian community nationwide in regards to what's been going on and the dangers they face up in Springfield, Ohio. Mayor Alex Desolme from North Miami put a resolution that was passed by their council. I believe something similar was also passed by Miami Shores, I was told, and Brad drafted something. So I would ask you guys to consider, and the mayor was going to come talk to us tonight and ask us for our support on that item. So that's what he was here for, but his staff member is here to talk to us. And here's a copy, you can pass these down. Here's a copy of the resolution that Brad drafted. And Brad, not to speak for you, but you based that on the North Miami one?
Did, and I tried to tailor it to this community as best I could.
I changed a couple little things.
Asked you to modify it.
I changed very little, couple typos. Okay, so I would ask that we add this onto the agenda and do it at the top of the agenda so his staff member can speak to us and leave, and then we could vote on that.
Thank you.
Oh, did I not print enough? Oh,
We were close.
and I printed enough of everything.
Okay, so before we move forward, Was that everything that you had, Mac?
Yeah.
Okay.
Push my 12 D, G, and H, and I was really just gonna say, put them at the bottom if we got to one or two of them. But there is one that is time sensitive, and that is the 13, the one about the Halloween awards.
Oh, yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
That I really would want to make sure we get that heard because we have to make a decision tonight or it won't happen at all.
I mean,
That'll be quick.
I could just say yes right now, but we, I'm in
Because you want to
favor
win.
right
You're,
now.
and you can't win it.
I
Wait, what?
got it that one year.
Good. I'll challenge you this year. Yes, let's do it.
Hey,
Sorry.
just with regards to the discussion on the public camping,
Yeah.
it is somewhat time sensitive.
I know, I was going to address that as very quickly. So just, all right.
I
Just
also,
want to make sure we got all the additions and deletions and withdrawals before I get there, but go ahead, Commissioner Answer.
I was just gonna ask, Manager, Truitt about 12C, the CAP agreement that does not have any sort of a deadline for us. There is nothing in terms of consequences for not addressing that item today?
No, not at all.
Okay. Good.
So you beat me to it. And that was on my list of, I had 13C and then, I'm sorry, 12C and then 13A, the public camping one, so we could talk about it. Are there any others before we talk about those two? Since we know that there's no real deadlines or any kind of implications if we don't talk about 12C now, are we comfortable withdrawing that for the time being?
And I will say this, that if the interim manager, whoever that person is someone who has expertise and they say, guys, I can help you with this, I can navigate you through this while I'm here, we could say, yes, by all means, bring it back to us. But just not tonight until we see who's going to be in place. And maybe we'll have someone who does have that kind of expertise.
Yeah, I'm in support of that. Let's pull it.
All right, so 12C is pulled. Now 13A is a different one because 13A, there is a deadline on this one. My and that's, it goes into, we can be
What's 13A?
pursue, the camping and sleeping one.
Oh.
My understanding that it went into effect already as of today, I believe. And January 1 has a special significance, so we were trying to get out ahead of that one. Now, I can appreciate having that person here because that's really relevant information to have. But what if we were to do it this way? What if we were to have Brad come back to us with a draft ordinance?
So what I could do, if I may, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Really quick.
Sure.
So what I can do, if you want to take it off as a discussion item, that's fine. But then what I would propose doing is bring the ordinance to you on first read in November. And then you can have your discussion and consider the ordinance on first read in November. If you choose to go forward with it, we can have second read on December, and then you'll comply with Florida law. The reason, and just the short part of it is, the camping prohibition went into effect October 1 of this year, of just today,
Okay.
Where you're supposed to prohibit people from camping in public. However, you cannot, there's no remedy yet for not doing it until January 1, where a resident or the Attorney General can bring suit to cause you to enforce. And you
So-
have nothing to enforce. So the ordinance has to pass. If you choose to have something that you can enforce, the ordinance would have to pass before January 1.
But if it's I'm confused. If it's a state law, why do we have to have an ordinance saying the same thing that the state law says?
State law does not create a crime or a penalty. It just says that a municipality or county cannot allow individuals to
And it's up to us.
camp in the public. And then it says that that provision is effective October 1.
Mhm.
Coming January 1, 2025, if a municipality is not enforcing a camping law, a public camping law, then they are subject to suit from either, what the statute says, and businesses don't apply to you, but a resident or the Attorney General can file suit to enforce, and there's certain monetary penalties.
I think the idea is
Fine with that.
get the ball rolling and then we can
Fine
have
with
her
that.
here. Okay.
We can
So-
still have the conversation.
Right, so
I
we're.
do want to take advantage of her being here.
Exactly. So she can be here, but we can start the ball rolling to make sure we meet the Jan 1 deadline. So I think that sounds like consensus direction for you, Mr. Attorney. That's 13A, so it will be withdrawn as a discussion item. 12C.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
I just received a text from Mayor Desamay.
Yeah.
He is waiting to get on, if you would allow him to come on now.
yeah, certainly. I mean, we're actually getting,
It's not him, it's one of his staff members, and I have her name.
okay.
So if you want to, I guess we have to close addition solutions. And
Yeah, let me do that first. I have record here of everything we're moving on so I can follow it correctly, but do I have a motion?
Motion to approve as amended.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, great. So let's go ahead to our presentations. Let's have the mayor was waiting or the staff?
It's
was-
hit, that's her name there on the phone.
Can she hear us? Not sure. Is she under the Samsung? Is there anyone in the waiting room?
She says she's there, Jonathan. That's her name right there, Fayola.
Fayola. Sorry, I didn't want to butcher it. Fayola Delica.
Fayola Dalika.
How about this? While they've kind of figure out how to get in and get us started, how about I do the other proclamation that we missed earlier? It's the proclamation for National Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And in the interim, maybe they'll be able to get into the waiting room. So this is part of the presentations. It's our proclamation, Village of Biscayne Park, October 2024, National Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I apologize. I'm going to run through this as quickly as I can, not to diminish its importance. Whereas National Breast Cancer Awareness Month was founded in 1985 to promote mammography as a weapon in the fight against breast cancer. In 1991, the Susan G. Komen Foundation first utilized the pink ribbon as a symbol for the cause in its New York City race for breast cancer survivors. And in 1993, Evelyn Lauder of Estee Lauder Companies founded the Breast Cancer Research Foundation, and also using the pink ribbon as its symbol. Whereas despite considerable progress made in screening, early detection, and better treatments, and although mortality rates are steadily decreasing, breast cancer is still the second leading cause of cancer deaths among women in our country. Whereas knowing the risk factors for breast cancer, including family and personal history, obesity, genetic change, and prior exposure to radiation, as well as exercising regularly, maintaining a healthy balanced diet and body weight, and regular diagnostic screening may lower or mitigate the development of breast cancer. Whereas the Village of Biscayne Park holds the health and safety of its citizens as a permanent concern, during National Breast Cancer Awareness Month, we stand with our mothers, daughters, sisters, and friends, and we recognize all who have joined their loved ones in fighting their battle, as well as the advocates, researchers, and healthcare providers whose care and hard work give hope to those living with breast cancer. By educating ourselves and supporting innovative research, we will improve the quality of life for all Americans affected by breast cancer and one day defeat this terrible disease. Now, therefore, I, Jonathan Groth, Mayor of the Village of Biscayne Park, Florida, joined by the entire commission, do hereby join the nation proclaiming October 2024 as National Breast Cancer Awareness Month. We encourage all citizens to join in activities that will increase awareness of what Americans do to prevent and control breast cancer. How are we doing?
Okay, she is in the waiting room. She said she is waiting for a room to start. Did we close down the 5:30 meeting and reopen a 6 o'clock meeting on Zoom? No. I think we're probably still in the first meeting.